Hello, my name is Anna Yanina, and this is the show Dirt. In our show, we ask our guests uncomfortable questions that interest you. And today, I have Arsen as my guest. Hello.
Good evening, good day, and esteemed gentlemen.
Please tell us about yourself and what you do for those who are not familiar with your activities.
Just so formal. Well, you see, my project has actually indeed been developing very dynamically. There have been many pivots, meaning rules change from one thing to another. And this, so to speak, is when the theme changes sharply while retaining the audience. For example, Netflix has not always been a streaming platform.
So you change content many times?
Yes. Right now I have the largest paid Telegram channel in the world, and accordingly, the largest men's CIS community in the Russian language. The topics we discuss include mental health, physical health, and how to survive in the realities of the CS space, which is very different from the Western American context. And the formula is essentially like this. For some reason, many people call me a coach or a trainer, but I actually have a different position on that. I am simply overcoming some problems. In this life, some very typical obstacles for a man from the CIS, and I just leave a track of how I overcame them. Based on this track, people can choose what conclusions to draw from it, whether to repeat it partially, or not, repeat it at all. So around this, I am essentially building an entire community. Many people have a need for self-identification, so to speak, in general as well. If I mention polygamy to someone, 9 out of 10 will roll their eyes. It's still nice to be in the company of people who don't roll their eyes in front of you.
Do you perhaps want to talk about polygamy?
It's not that I want to talk about it. Let's put it this way. I would like to. Come on, let me formulate it. I am a terminally individualistic person. It seems to me that if a person is not bothering anyone, then they do not deserve any condemnation from anyone. Yes, we talked about that too. And I also threw out the take that I don't see the point in feminism if there is the concept of individualism. That is, no problem. Overlaps that cannot be solved if we simply respect the individuality of a person.
There is no sense talking of utopia, since in reality, there is no such thing as living in a world of harmony where everyone respects others' personal boundaries, opinions, and positions, and no one oppresses or rapes anyone.
You can get lost, right? You won't get lost.
It is possible.
But we do not live in a utopia. We live in a
Since it's possible to have a situation where you say that feminism is unnecessary because, well...
And it is possible like that? No, of course not. It is needed as specific actions. It is not needed as something separate from individualism. That is, we will just talk about the fact that there are specific problems with the fact that people are, in many cases, hindered from living the way they want. I'm not saying that feminism should be abolished. I'm just saying that it's merely a specific case of individualism. Feminism is individualism about women. That's my perspective. And here, I'm precisely saying that in modern society, it's impossible to survive. That's a simple fact. I really can't refuse urgent military service without a very good reason. It's actually indeed such a tough offer. Hey, dude, you've grown up. Welcome to the year now.
Did you serve?
No, I have very poor health.
You have very poor health, but you are indeed selling the idea of a healthy physical body, right?
Who will teach you better how not to step on landmines? Someone who has been in the fields or someone who hasn't?
But we're not talking about mines.
Yes, I'm not giving advice, I'm just talking about what I do. For instance, I have ADHD in its terminal stage. I have poor self-control, I waste time, and I was late here. I don't remember the last time I wasn't late. And I accordingly try different things that help me. If they help me, I say, I did this and it helped me. Whoever wants can repeat it. So the whole concept is built precisely on this principle. I did it. Here is my feedback. You can do whatever you want with this information.
Are you proud of the men's community that you have formed around yourself now?
No, because it wasn't actually difficult for me personally, given my skills. I probably feel prouder when I'm told that something good has changed in their lives.
How much does it cost to join your paid Telegram?
1,500 rubles.
How many subscribers are there now?
Main channel has 60,700 subscribers. Others have 7,000.
Were they all initially closed? Of course. How much did you earn from this?
Multiply.
I am very bad at math.
The first year, now it's a double lie right away. I'm just hot. Everything is itching. I've settled in comfortably. No. I just started talking about how much I earn, and I ended up scratching myself with both hands. I finished the first year, and there were 1,500 people in the channel. No, wait. There were 4,000. A year later, on December 31st, it was 10,000. This year started with 10,000, and now it's 60. For the year 2023, I sat down, went through all the accounting, and earned $1 million over the entire year. And this year, I think it is definitely safe to speak of having achieved multimillionaire status. I earned enough to be independent from advertising, from doing what I don't want to do, or offering what I don't like. This is probably such an important element.
Aren't you possibly buying or selling?
I neither buy nor sell.
Are you doing yourself or have a team?
No. I have always done everything myself. I currently have a team of people who help me do this, implement my ideas, and I am looking for technical specialists, all that. But for someone to tell me what topics to post about, no, that doesn't happen.
Is it an image or is it real?
What exactly? In general, I'm just a different version of myself everywhere. I'm actually a big jokester. I kind of grew up in an atmosphere of student KVN, what, where, when, and American stand-up sketches. And even what you watched. Did you see the show with the axe and the hammer? The one with the glasses?
Yes, I couldn't finish watching.
Hello everyone. Today we will put the Shlukobrania 2.0 on you. First, we need to find out what our enemy looks like. Our enemy has a hole between their legs. What does our enemy use against us? First and foremost, the fact that we consume all sorts of crap. Put a plus if you've consumed crap from girls.
What is the essence of this performance, really? It is actually a humorous sketch combined with a room of aggression, indeed. In fact, it is the absurd culmination of all the resentment that exists. Let me give you another example about the image to connect. This is actually a good question. Sasha. A friend sends a video where I am sitting. Who is Sasha? A close friend. Yes, by the will of fate, a longtime subscriber as well. Here's the essence. They send him videos of a friend where I give a guide on rape. And he asks, how do you feel about this statement from Arsen and all that? 100% of women offer zero resistance if they feel that the attacker is truly going all the way. In general, this is a useful experience. To understand how human psychology works, one might think about committing acts of violence. When you go to assault women, you should do it in a way that suggests you plan to assault another 10 after her. And you think only about this 10th right now. I don't like cliches. And when you talk about the same topic all the time, it always starts the same way. You want to approach it differently each time. I don't even remember how I got into this, but I started to play around with the mindset of successful success in the context of rape. I realized that rape is not supportive. We can talk about this separately later. The point was that you can't approach this half-heartedly. If you start it, you have to see it through to the end. You have to go all the way to the 10th. It's like an inside joke. Imagine, for instance, that you have a meeting with your close friends in the kitchen, I don't know, over champagne or some music, and you're sharing some inside jokes. Now imagine that a camera was set up there. Basically, that's what I do. I kind of let people peek into a gathering at my place at 3 in the morning in the kitchen. That's it. I find life very boring. I have a very high boredom threshold. In other words, everything is unbearably unpleasant. And what I find really amusing is the active creation of very humorous situations indeed.
Do you like receiving a lot of attention? Are you trying to compensate for it in some way? Do you feel lonely?
I wouldn't say that I like attention on myself. I just enjoy managing the emotional atmosphere. That's what I like.
Do you feel lonely?
I don't feel. I am an absolutely lonely person.
Are you comfortable in solitude?
Of course not.
Are you suffering from him?
I suffer from it not on the level of having a bad and sad mood. I suffer from it existentially.
What do you think? Why are you lonely?
I think it's because, in general, a person is impressionable. I had some friends. I had some big plans that we would have a great life. Let's say I took everything too seriously when people didn't take it seriously, and that's why I couldn't switch off. For example, I had a friend there with whom we went to competitions. We participated together in 50 fights. He cornered me. I cornered him. We wiped each other's blood. We held each other's broken hands. It toughens you up. It's a very close friendship. Then it's hard to find something similar in life. I just have a high standard for emotional closeness, that's all. There are people who easily call others friends, but I understand that, as Sergei Mavrodi said, there are abysses that are better not to gaze into, and everything has a melting point. And when I look at any people in my surroundings, I understand where the melting point is. If it is modest enough, of course, I do not harbor any illusions.
What does melting temperature mean?
Well, it's a trivial thing. How many people will remain friends with you if some Mexican mafia puts a hit on you? There are women who swear their love and leave the day after you run out of money. It's the most absurd, classic. Have you experienced that? It's banal. Of course not. I have never lost money. And women. Of course, of course, of course. Here, look, let me finish talking about the melting point, then we can move on to something else. For me, friendship is still a thing, and not loneliness. It's a thing where, in principle, there is no longer a difference in who among you will take the bullet.
This is a very high statement.
I don't understand why other things are called friendship. For example, if a person goes to prison and he has a wife, he is sentenced to 10 years. 99.9% of any oaths, any promises, they multiply to 0. Where did you grow up? I was born and raised in Samara, along the Volga.
Was it a poor family or a wealthy one?
Divides it exactly in half. The father earned very well. A lot. He set up all the relatives. He was a versatile builder. He made the blueprints himself and visited the construction sites, everything related to construction. Mom was a language teacher, but when the children came along, she no longer worked. She only took care of us, with my brother. Accordingly, when I was about 10 years old, there was, frankly speaking, no money in the family. It's not that I had nothing to eat, but from a teenager's perspective, it was quite stressful. Like, I couldn't buy myself clothes, go to the movies, nothing. Well, I just live. I simply live. And that's it.
Kids and family.
I actually have an older brother. And I am indeed the younger one. In fact, the toughest pressure there was probably the rejection by society. I still feel it. Any non-Russian person will confirm to you that it is indelible. In any store, at any border control, in any establishment, anywhere, you receive suspicious looks. People look down on you, either with disdain or with fear. But Russia rejects you as a non-Russian person. Back then, the times were wilder, and you could be beaten up on the street, and your phone could be taken away in the middle of the day. It was not good for me as an impressionable child. Well, in the category of course, I'm talking about myself. So, in the shopping mall, in the middle of just a flow of people, 2 skinheads with white laces, which translates to, in their language, I've already killed 1 non-Russian at least, corner me and beat me up. It was very scary. It was very scary. At that moment, I clearly and sharply felt that your problems are only your problems. In broad daylight, you could be killed, and nothing would really happen. No one would even try.
Your problems are your problems. Your brother.
He added.
So your older brother is hitting you right now?
No.
Or something?
Yes, but he didn't hit me like an alcoholic father who beats you every day. I clearly didn't feel safe around him. He didn't protect me. And we were in a fierce confrontation over any resource.
So you were competing like 2 guys?
It was not childish competition. It was male competition.
How old were you exactly at that time?
I was 12. He was 15. Those were the times when he was almost reaching for a knife, saying things like, I'll kill you at night, and all that.
What led to the creation of such computers?
It's so banal and funny that I don't even want to talk about it. Yes, it's banal for a computer. It's not about the computer, it's about the space. We didn't each have our own room. We lived in one room. And, from my brother's perspective, I was seen as the cringy younger brother who was annoying and should have been out of the way. What was interesting about that? Imagine you are 15 years old and you have a 12-year-old brother. That's a very serious gap in interests in everything. And there was this constant tension that we were interfering with each other, that we weren't allowing each other to live normally. He was on the computer, and I wanted to sleep. I wanted to sleep, and he was on the computer.
And what did your parents do while watching your conflicts? Did your mom try to talk? Did your father have a conversation?
Here, I need to take a small step back. There was a very large age difference between my father and me. My father was born in 1953, and you? 1995. I was born when he was 43. He grew up in a very aggressive environment by modern standards. He grew up in a remote Georgian village. In those years, it was still common to hit children for no reason at all, just for no reason. Well, it was a form of prevention. They would take you to school, the class would enter, and they would take a ruler and hit you on the hands or in some other way. For my parents, our interactions were just child's play and nothing more. Simply put, there is a strong generational gap.
Dad, as a tough person, raised his hand against you.
I didn't say that my father was a tough person. My father was the gentlest person I ever knew. That is what ruined him, deprived him of happiness.
Wait, he grew up in that environment.
Yes, the environment treated him very harshly. He is with us.
He didn't raise his hands against you.
Never in my life. One time he had sex with me, but it was manly. It wasn't like with a child.
How old were you?
Around 14 or 13 years old. What is that? There's a funny story. I would sit and read books at night. Well, it was uncomfortable to be in the room with my brother, so I read either on the balcony or in the kitchen. It's about 4, I'm reading, and my father asks, "How are you going to get up for school tomorrow?" Normal books, not fiction, but scientific ones. And I said, "Well, Dad, I read. I want to understand how the world works and all that." And he told me something conservative like, "You know how many people like you there are who want to understand something or want to do something." And I told him, well, I'm not like that. He didn't act rude for some reason, but I liked it. For me, it was a pleasant and useful experience because he opened up to me in that way. I don't know what the atmosphere was like in your family, but when you spend little time with your father and there are few emotions, any interaction is cool. You get some pleasure from, I really enjoyed it. Well, it's just a form of recognition that I have already grown up. He never hit the children. So my father doesn't hit children. If he hit me, it means I am already an adult. What was my mother like? She was or she wasn't. She is here. But is Dad not? Yes. Unfortunately, my father left this world a year ago. How did you cope with this loss? Well, I was lucky. I figured it out. That he would soon be leaving this life forever. And I spent the last couple of days on the phone with him, reminiscing. We talked for 5 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. At that time, I was living in Spain, and I couldn't leave. If I had left Spain, I wouldn't have been able to return. And I had like some freaks on my tail there. I couldn't leave a woman alone in a foreign country. I didn't even go to the funeral because of that. I spoke with my father, and I talked to him a couple of hours before he died. I repented, thanked him, cried, and begged for forgiveness. I recounted absolutely everything I remembered that was good, everything that had been between us, every memory. I felt it very clearly, actually. Unfortunately, my intuition works strongly for such bad things. He was still surprised, saying, "Why are you talking to me like that? As if you are seeing me off. We still have so much to talk about." And I, just for the most part, probably fulfilled the dream of any father that exists.
Let's talk about your mom. What was she like?
She is a mom. In childhood, yes, I understood well. Yes, Mom. She was a very strong teacher. She started reading with me early. We began reading the Bible together early on. We started reading various, complex literature for children, like the myths of ancient Greece, encyclopedias, early.
How old is it?
At 3.5 years old, I was already reading syllables. By 4, I was reading whole words. Essentially, everything I have done in my business is due to my proficiency in the Russian language. I speak Russian clearly and thoroughly. A huge number of people write to me, saying they listen to me only because I express their thoughts better than they can articulate them themselves. Divide relationship with Mom into 2 stages. The first stage is from birth to 7th, 8th. It was golden, it was wonderful, it was magical and beautiful, and there was nothing bad about it. Absolutely. We had nothing but life, nothing except me and my brother. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And she dedicated a lot of attention to our development, with music, art, activities, and teachers. In other words, to everything good in life, I owe it primarily to my mother from an intellectual standpoint, and secondly, to two female teachers who were the first to meet me in this life, who actually sat with me and engaged in unconventional, in-depth methods. If it weren't for that, what does it mean by unconventional methods? Not according to Soviet templates, individually. That is, she sees that I am interested in a certain topic, and she leads me there. So you had a separate tutor. Yes, my mom found us our first tutors. We had them since we were 3 years old. After 7, 8 years, there were brutal and severe conflicts with my mom. In the Armenian mentality, and especially in our family mentality, we have a very small community of Georgian Armenians, and there the mentality is absolutely uniform, which is that children should be dandelions. Completely and utterly obedient, fully and entirely agreeing, absolutely and totally lacking their own opinion. I will be light strokes. My father's younger brother, who was 35 years old, was pushed down the stairs by his father, that is my grandfather, because he came and said, "I want to get married." He had no right to tell his grandfather, that he wanted to get married. He was supposed to ask him if I could think in order to think so that you could find me a bride. That's how things are there. Very conservative.
I would say inhuman.
And my parents imposed the mindset on my brother and me that we should be just as obedient. But by the age of 13, I had entirely broken free from their control. In other words, I sabotaged all the main rules, whatever they were, regarding sleep schedule, attending school, and studying. Basically, I didn't consult with my parents, and they experienced cultural shock.
And how exactly did your mom treat you, perhaps?
She thought that I would end up very poorly. She thought that I wouldn't get an education, that I would get involved with a bad crowd. And in the end, I founded it. Banditry, crime, drugs, prostitution. She was really worried that I wouldn't get an education, that I would get involved with a bad company. But in the end, I actually founded. Here, this is it. Mom, like a typical Armenian woman, dreamed that the elder son would be a lawyer and the younger one a doctor. And everything is neat. In our family, in our ancestral field, there is an incredible degree of anachronism regarding conventional attributes, quietly, successfully, and neatly.
Did you feel your mom loved you?
It bothered me that she loved me too much. What does that mean? Any foolishness, like getting a 3 in math, was perceived too sharply. It's normal. My mom had nothing else to do but focus on us, me and my brother. If she had some hobby or something else, she would react much more gently. She was shoved into a structure where there is just her and her 2 sons, and that's all you focus on. So for her, of course, it was quite powerful. She sent us to a good school, where she also provided tutors. We just did everything. Arsen is doing fine. Arsen graduated from university. My older brother graduated from university. He received a great education. The track that my parents expected, I just messed it up. I stopped going to school in the 8th grade. What were you doing? I was involved in network marketing at that time, a distinguished veteran of the Reflamed troops. I just tried my hand at everything. I had a period when I was hired as an assistant. I handed out flyers. I organized American-style parties. Just everything in general. There was a moment when I was standing with my brother. Samara, evening, winter, murky, grim atmosphere, and a car drives by. They are talking to my brother. I don't understand cars, and I still don't. He says, "That's a Lexus," and I ask, "How much does that Lexus cost?" He mentions some amount to me. I don't remember if it was 5 million or something else. I sit there and just start calculating. Let's say my salary will be 100,000. I start figuring out how much I need, and I realize that I don't understand something in this life, that the math doesn't add up. You can't buy such a car on that salary. And there are many such cars. But they want to send me to school, then to university, then to work, and there won't even be close to 100,000 right away. It was a revelation after which I realized that I would not listen to anyone regarding this track, school, university, work. I will look for any other reason because this is not life.
So you went to Reflame.
Yes, I didn't go, I was invited.
What was he doing there?
We teamed up with 500 people our age, rented the most expensive office in Samara, which has showcases and everything, 4 floors, like on Wilkesville Street, which hadn't even been released at that time. And we were directly engaged in this activity. That is, we were building the structure, inviting and signing people up. Our focus was more on what we were doing there.
So you were like catching those Pokemon that run around the entrance.
We were also on part-time, but overall, yes, the aesthetics were completely different. We were all in suits with ties, looking very formal. At first glance, you would never guess that they were doing riffling here.
How much did he earn here?
Not at all.
Why?
Because the network model is suitable only for rigidly systematic, disciplined people who can handle repetition. I am the last person who I can't repeat something the same way. I always have to say it differently, so I didn't find any success there, but where did the joke about the 16th education come from? In general, I don't know if you've come across it or not. Well, there's this joke. It's among my own. I understood human psychology and consumer psychology so well back then that I'm still riding on that experience. That is, there was endless communication every day with a variety of people, with grandmothers, with idiots, with IT specialists, with businessmen. I tried to categorize each one.
So you learned how to sell Ariflame?
No, I actually didn't learn how to actually sell Ariflame. I didn't earn anything there. I didn't earn anything? I didn't learn how to sell Ariflame, but I clearly understood how human perception is generally structured, how to communicate, how to set appointments. From there, I told my subscribers that I feel like I've received 3 higher education degrees this year. When we started to analyze, I saw that there aren't 3 degrees, but 16. I'm making content. I get paid for this content. That's it. All my readers pay me for my content. Any Russian influencer, opinion leader, or content creator would sell their soul to do the same. Imagine you have an Instagram account and someone with 3 million followers. How can you make them pay? It seems like a simple task. It seems like, well, you go out, say, guys, here's the link, sign up. It doesn't work that way. And it's a very delicate, meticulous job that I do simply because I truly understand how.
Well, that's how the entire Instagram business is structured right now, meaning you are neither the first nor the last. What is it about? Well, I sell myself, my rhetoric, my conceptual ideas, and I disagree with you that everyone would tear their ass apart because some people go into the internet, blogging, music, streaming, and YouTube anywhere for the sake of creativity.
The most important thing is that I don't sell it. I don't spend time selling it. I just create content, and I absolutely get paid for it. From another angle, let me show you. Imagine that we take some person whose life doesn't change at all, except for the fact that all his viewers, who would have watched him anyway, and he is engaged in creativity, pay him money.
I wouldn't want that. This is a delegation of responsibility. When people pay money for something, they expect some kind of result. I don't want to be anyone's or have anyone.
It depends. Of course, it depends on what it depends on. First of all, perception, and secondly, the offer. It doesn't work that way. Just because someone pays me, they don't expect anything from me other than...
Let us discuss this. What can someone get when they purchase a paid entry to your Telegram channel? And what happens there?
I am absolutely not interested in what he expects. I promise him only one thing. There will be something in this channel. Something will happen. Based on what was there, I will share how I dealt with my health issues, particularly with mental health. I can talk about how I went to a psychotherapist for 3 years.
I will talk about 3 years of psychotherapy. I am interested.
That's the question.
At 16, I moved away from my family. My childhood was filled with psychological and physical abuse. Living independently, I couldn't get out of bed. I barely ate all day and cried a lot. I couldn't work, couldn't see or communicate with my friends. I thought it would never end. But I found the strength to see a psychologist. I was diagnosed as having anxiety-depressive disorder. I felt better from the very first session, as I understood what was happening. The following years were filled with therapy, during which I became convinced of how important and relevant the profession of a psychologist is. And I am not the only one who knows this. In just 2023, the number of visits to psychologists has increased by 60%. Studying psychology is useful and straightforward for better understanding yourself and your loved ones. Now is a great time to take the first steps in this profession. But the question arises, where can one obtain this education? Exclusively at a reputable institution, which is the Moscow Institute of Psychology, one of the leading universities in Russia for psychology. The MIP offers programs in demand psychology fields. You can choose programs for beginners and for those who already have experience. This includes both professional retraining and a bachelor's degree. Here you will gain deep theoretical knowledge in psychology with a focus on practice. There will be analyses of real clinical situations and demonstration sessions. There will also be intervisions and supervisions, practice in pairs and threes. The training is conducted in a distance format with the option to attend in-person workshops in Moscow. And an incredibly important part will be the daily feedback from practicing psychologists. Additionally, you will be accompanied by a curator at all stages. Upon completion of your studies, you will receive a state diploma with an international supplement, and of course there are some nice bonuses. Currently, the Institute of Psychology is offering a 30% discount on all training programs. With the promo code YANINA, an additional 10% discount will be available. If you have any questions, that's normal. Leave an application via the link in the description for a consultation on education from the admissions office managers. And to choose the program that will take into account both your experience and the goals that you set for yourself. What exactly brought you to the tech therapist?
I ended there by chance. The girl said that I have real problems with my head, and as an experiment I should go get checked out. Why did she say that to you? What happened? Why did she say that to me? She's the one. She brought me in back then, yes, but I was really inadequate at that time, emotionally unstable. Yes. I mean, I would suddenly explode in anger, and I could burst into tears just as quickly. So these are really, indeed, in fact, truly alarming signals. Overall, I was extremely sensitive. It's, in general terms, problems with self-management, with emotional self-regulation.
You came to therapy because you had an unstable emotional state. A woman sent you there. If I understand correctly, this emotional state was discussed with the woman.
Well, no violence. I am constantly told this because everyone expects me to be a physical aggressor. In reality,
I think that you are not physical but moral.
I am not an aggressor. I am a sweetheart. I will speak up because people think that I am getting physical. Because I was beaten in childhood and then sent to martial arts, I have an absolute block against physical aggression. Just absolutely. In my entire life, I have initiated violence 4 times. One was a defense, and twice with my brother. Twice. Defense, I actually jumped on my brother twice, Really. It is morally difficult for me. I had a certain format of communication which still partially remains. I am a person with a very good attitude towards him. Practically there, one could say, it was impeccable, it dominated me, obligated me, pressed on shame, pressed on guilt. That's how it was for me. Of course, no. It's just that this format of communication is like, you take care of yourself. Right now I have a good attitude towards you, but later I expect you to treat me well. This was probably quite difficult because my close circle felt morally wrong when they wanted to refuse me or end their relationships with me, as they genuinely felt that in some sense, according to universal human values and concepts, yes indeed. So, what was going on with the woman? What was happening? Well, let me put it this way. Is it hard for you to talk about this? No, it's not hard. I need to decompose a huge story and fit it into a couple of sentences so as not to take up too much time here. The main problem was that I was very sensitive, and I still am. Very sensitive, very resentful, and extremely demanding. Extremely demanding. That is, I have a certain standard of behavior. I expect it from anyone. And if it is violated, I have an outburst of aggression. Accordingly, I understand my vulnerability, and I try not to build relationships with people who cannot understand this aspect. For example, in my circle, any form of joking insult is unacceptable. Hey, you faggot, how are you doing? Not even close, and many people don't know this and all that. So, well, let me give you an example. Let's say if it's already late and someone comes to me to resolve some emotionally heavy issue, of course, it definitely, absolutely drives me crazy. This is unbearable. Why? Because they are dealing with heavy emotional issues before going to sleep after a long, hard day at work. A person is exhausted. The objective need is ignored. The state is ignored. In fact, this is a form of unlove, disrespect. This causes resentment, and resentment leads to aggression.
What does your aggression typically look like?
I don't shout. I've never shouted in my life. That's true, too. I just retreat into myself. And then I already forgot. I just became more reasonable. Emotionally, my stand-up is starting. And it's aggressive stand-up. What the hell? How did that come to your mind? I told you. In Russian, just like that.
And as a result of such stand-up, were you sent to therapy? Or was there something else?
That's all? Everything? 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 That is, in principle, a person should not be so vulnerable in adulthood. This is first, an unhealthy situation. And second, it is a harmful situation.
Think you are a healthy person now?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I am completely crazy. It's just that I am well informed about how exactly crazy I am. And I don't harbor the illusion that it's just without hypochondria. Yes, I'm a bit off, but that doesn't make me crazy. I mean, I'm completely aware.
And where is that line?
It's better to have a daughter in a sauna than a son who is a normie. I don't consider being mentally healthy to be some kind of standard. But what I mean is that I do not consider being neurotypical to be a standard that one should strive for.
What does it mean, better a daughter in a sauna than a son normis?
Well, that's just a joke.
What does she mean?
What is unclear to you?
I don't understand in this phrase.
A daughter in a sauna means a sex worker. This is bad.
Prostitute. In other words, this is definitely bad.
Better a daughter a prostitute than a son a normis?
What does the son of normis mean?
Neurotypical, meaning without any deviations, neither schizoaffective nor bipolar, nor obsessive-compulsive, nor any other disorders, just a simple zucchini, an ordinary healthy person. This is humor. This is hyperbole. I think if someone has a child, it would be better if their daughter were a prostitute. This is my personal attitude.
Your daughters will grow up in the most calm, balanced.
I just explained that this is not my personal attitude towards being neurotypical. In other words, I prefer to suffer more and endure more, but at the same time, to be a bright, expressive person. So if I were not given the opportunity to change, I would never ever change for a healthy psyche. But if someone is healthy, I am happy for them. They don't have as many problems in life. I am happy for them.
If your daughters are indeed calm and even...
Yes, I will be happy for them.
Aren't you think it would be better if they were prostitutes?
Well, that's obvious.
I would like to clarify.
Yes. No, I'm saying it's a form of humor, a mix of the internet from the 2000s and a mix of those student KVN shows and all that. Look, my problem is that I generate so much hate and conflict because I talk as if I'm only among my own people. And I think everyone understands this. But then it turns out that not everyone does.
It's not that someone doesn't understand. It's that sometimes you use such triggering statements that touch on.
In this laughter...
It's funny. And I completely agree with you. Because I generated such content.
I know him.
But there is a limit to this.
Look, do you watch Tarantino movies? Well, have you ever seen one?
Well, I saw it, but I'm not impressed.
But you understand his cinematic language in which he does all of this.
I don't see anything fun in this.
No, but you've seen it. It's familiar. Look, I'll explain it to you. And the fact that it's Tarantino, it's everywhere.
A man talks about Tarantino's films, In Trouble, Girls.
The fact that Tarantino included guts, blood, gunfire, and even homosexual rape in his works does not mean that he supports it. It does not mean that he thinks it is beautiful or good.
But you're not making a movie. That's different. There, it's a picture.
Literally, the method of my storytelling is fairy tale therapy. It's stand-up. It's just instead of cinematic language or visual art, I have narrative art. So when I say that a daughter from Saudi is better than a son from Normis, yes, this is not a literal thesis based on a real verified screenshot. I am simply expressing my attitude that I am happy to be neurodivergent.
Let's talk about your therapy. We'll get into it. You've been in it for 3 years.
Probably more, maybe 4.
What kind of therapy was it?
Well, classic cognitive behavioral therapy, as it is known.
I was also there with him. Let's measure our experience. You went there in an emotionally unstable state.
I came out of there feeling very adequate. Anyone who has been watching me on Delta since 2013 would find what has been happening in the last 2 years to be absolutely conditionally. In 2019, I could promise on air to kill someone and bury them 70 meters deep somewhere over some silly thing, and I would actually experience a monstrous fit of aggression for 15 minutes. Since 2022, there has been practically no raid over 2,000 hours of broadcasts, not a single raid at all.
Happy with the results of this therapy?
I am absolutely happy. I have a large piece of material, a 10-hour broadcast, where I talk about the downsides of cognitive therapy and, in general, Western psychotherapy. It castrates.
What exactly is she castrating?
She castrates the masculine principle. What do you mean? Don't tell me you don't know about the phenomenon that in the Western world, people cannot date or have intergender relationships. I don't follow the Western world. Let me put it this way. Look, the problem with psychotherapy is that it takes respect for one's own boundaries and others' boundaries to an absolute limit, while real life still implies a certain leniency in that regard. Because if you respect them deeply, the fabric of normal human communication falls apart.
You are literally talking about a utopia that psychotherapy does not teach. You are taught to understand yourself, to understand another person, and to find individual.
Well, look, here are two people having sex, right? I know that this particular girl likes slaps. She wasn't joking or anything like that, but still, from the perspective of active consent, I have to ask her every time, are you okay with me slapping you right now? The canvas breaks. There's no normal human interaction.
The difference here is that if you are actually having sex with a girl who loves a man, she may inform you about it during the process.
Well, this is just pure cringe on a thermonuclear level.
No!
Yes.
There is nothing cringeworthy.
The audience has already understood everything. They will figure it out.
No, I don't care at all what the audience thinks. We are having a conversation. Any woman in sex can express what she wants, what she dislikes, and what she likes. And this should not break the sexual aura around.
Yes, but when you ask her that,
So why are you asking?
do you want to hit her during sex? No. You already have experience with her. She told you about it.
Did you have XP enjoy hitting her?
I don't have it, she's asking.
Then why do you want to ask her about it?
Whether it is pleasant for her or not. Look, I'll explain it to you. There is a nominal idea. There is a final result. The nominal idea of psychotherapy is unquestionable. The end result of a psychotherapeutized society is that there is only one psychotherapeutized society in the world, the Western one. There, people are truly deeply psychotherapeutized, especially in America. This leads to people becoming impotent in social interactions.
That is, they become two. I feel uncomfortable having a conversation when it carries a certain undertone of pseudo-intellectualism. If you can explain the word usually, say something in simple terms. Do it in simple terms. Because neither the viewers nor I may understand myself.
All right? No, let's do it this way. We'll remove the word pseudo-intellectualism because there is neither pseudo nor intellectualism here. These are ordinary words. All right? Tell me an analogy for the word iteration. Well, I just say another word. I don't know another word besides the word iteration.
What exactly does iteration actually mean in practice?
One of the recurring acts that takes on a new and unique characteristic each and every time. I absolutely won't be speaking in such sentences. No, it would be great. Well, no, if you want, just ask. I asked. You threw the topic at me that firstly, it's pseudo-intellectual.
It's like I've been talking to Dima Laren since 2017.
Whose problem? Mine or the shirt? If you don't know the word iteration, I'm not a pseudo-intellectual.
The thing is, a very large part of our conversation consisted of these expressions. I am ready to skip some of them because the context is unclear. But some, like the one right now, for example, are unclear to me.
Well, just ask and that's it.
I must ask. You can't just express yourself in plain words.
I say, I don't differ at all from how I've spoken for 10,000 hours online and how I speak in person. Right now, I was asked to speak as I have my whole life, and I speak as I have my whole life.
Good.
If you sit with me and be with me,
I ask you just speak.
if you sit down with me and start smoking ashkudishka in the yurt with the gifts of local nature, we will talk about all of this just the same. And look.
Tell me, what about the local nature's gifts?
Well, I'm not going to talk about the banned substance. Yeah. Oh, okay.
The last month of summer has begun. Late night walks with friends, binge watching series all night, and complete relaxation. It's all, of course, very great. But you can't let your brain relax too much, especially with the start of the school year approaching. September is just around the corner. I have a riddle for you. Only 5% of all viewers will be able to solve it. Pause the video and try to guess. I think you guessed correctly. Exams. And now there will be very important information for those guys who will have to take them next year. I know that right now you don't want to think about school and exams at all. You want to postpone all the preparation for later. But you are probably already having those thoughts. Which subjects to take for the Unified State exam? But how? And with whom should I prepare? In short, you can now relax, as the online school Epilent has already thought everything through for you. Stop. If you are thinking right now, blah, 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 some kind of advertisement, some kind of school and all that, then you are very mistaken. Here are 3 facts you need to know about these guys. First, believe it or not, Egeland has already helped 117,000 graduates get into their dream, university. More than 40,000 people passed the Unified State exam, with scores of 85 and above, along with them. They have 1,000 grateful reviews. Just look at how their students react to their high scores. The teachers in Egeland are the best tutors in the country. They are geniuses at explaining complex topics in simple terms and are haters of boring lessons. Just look at how brightly and clearly and most importantly why, without any fluff, they explain the material. The most important method of empirical scientific cognition is the experiment. When we study the object followed, we influence it.
It is associated with a small angry dog. Why? Because it has one of the smallest radii and it is really very angry. It is very good at taking away electrons. We will study relevance with CHBD. Rustam Reversaloid. Here is his famous question. Why is it useful? What did he want? Rhetorical. Doesn't expect answers. He asked to express an emotion.
Third, Egeland is a place where you matter. It's not just a pile of boring recorded lessons that you can no longer even look at. Here, they will take you by the hand, identify your weak points, help you, pin up, support you, and accompany you through the school year until you achieve results. This is the most important thing. As the guys who studied there say, Egeland is the best thing that can happen to you in the 9th to 11th grade. You can now enroll for the next year at very favorable prices. Links will be in the description. The teachers run free Telegram channels where they provide info for preparing for the Unified State exam and the Basic State exam. This will save you a lot of nerves, and most importantly, time. Don't miss these channels. Subscribe right now so you won't regret it later.
And accordingly, the point is that psychotherapy in the Western model does not exist in any other form except for the Western model. It leads to people losing their normal and significantly aggressive drive in a significant and noticeable manner. An aggressive start in proportion is necessary for the normal functioning of society. As I said, this conversation is not relevant for the CIS for the next 20 years. The problem here is not that there is not enough aggression, there is too much of it. This is an overly aggressive society, and it needs to be reduced for about 20 years before we can return to this conversation.
Wait, your therapy is cognitive. It was also during the year. I also had issues with aggression. Therapy does not teach you to completely eliminate this aggression. And no one forbids you from being angry. Being angry and expressing anger towards people are 2 different things. And even if you express it, you can do so in different ways. You can do it democratically, or you can do it categorically.
You are absolutely right. I will just give an example to...
I explain.
Look, for example, I am talking to a girl, and she tells me, "It's just unbearable to be with you. I don't feel a personality next to you. You only talk about yourself." In therapy, I heard this, it hurt, and I felt ashamed. What a bad person I am. Well, you just use it to shield yourself and not interact with the person. Now I can say, your problem is you are boring, that I can only talk about myself. Learn to tell stories well, learn to bring up interesting topics, and I will sit with my mouth open listening to you.
So you need a woman who will entertain you.
It's not about that. I'm giving you an example regarding a healthy balance of aggression.
But was that a little example from your life?
Yes, this is an example from my life. Psychotherapy affects the brain in such a way that a person begins to reflect excessively. From the perspective of the brain, reflection is a form of doubt. Doubt is a form of weakness from the perspective of the most ancient structures of the brain. So you keep thinking all the time, what if I do this? What if I hurt someone? What if I offend someone? And when this accumulates...
Therapy does not lead you to this. If it was the right therapy, I give you 100%.
I am talking about men. I am not talking about women. But this therapy does not have such an effect on women.
So, you mean to say that therapy indeed teaches a man to doubt himself, constantly?
Self-doubt is an absolutely and undoubtedly necessary skill. But when it gets out of control, a person loses their grip on life. We all know the absolutely primitive narrative that a huge number of women like boors. Now, who will argue with me? I will take out my axe. Abusers, manipulators, narcissists, and other inadequate personalities.
So everyone.
This is a statistical error.
Women like fools, but not all of them. At some point, she goes to psychotherapy for her fools and realizes that actually I like it when I am loved, cared for, and accepted as I am.
I also love fiction.
Is this exactly your argument right now? Now.
Sorry if I teased a little. I couldn't help it, but I'll reveal it to you. The problem with women liking narcissists, Machiavellians, manipulators, and abusers is that they imitate supercompetence. They have so little brains that they do not doubt themselves. Because of this, they exude an aura of self-confidence that is hard to resist. Therefore, a man faces a very serious challenge in life, which consists of what? And this is the foundation of what I am talking about. To doubt yourself enough to avoid being a fool, and not to doubt yourself too much to avoid becoming impotent. No woman likes a man who is overly hesitant, who keeps asking, clarifying, "Are you okay? Is everything all right with you?" There should be a balance in everything. If we divide Russia into 4 parts, we have small towns and small and large cities. We mean large cities: Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, Samara, Kazan. In general, men in large cities typically behave in a manner that is characterized by an excessive amount of self-doubt, and often with an excess of self-doubt.
Where is this opinion from?
I am an observant person, and this is the environment in which I grew up.
Do men perhaps observe you suspiciously?
Not to me. I see what problems people face when they go online, to psychotherapy, or anywhere else. It boils down to one of the main questions. I'm a good guy. Everything is fine with me. So why is no one interested in me? Women do not perceive me. This is the most standard request. I am in the profession. I even have my own living space. I am adequate, attractive, tall, and normal. Friend zone. For everyone, I can't find sex. But sex is not just a physical act.
So let's talk about the friend zone. The friend zone is literally a disgusting phenomenon, because it's the moment when you tell a guy, "Yo, I want to hook up with you, but we can be friends." And I categorically disagree with the statement that there is no friendship between a man and a woman because it exists simply under certain rules and boundaries. And you tell this guy and he goes, yeah. But in his head, no, I'm still going to get her. I'm still going to finish this.
This is a social phenomenon.
And it's not a problem of the man being unable to get out of the friend zone. The problem is that he decided to enter it. He did not hear the rejection.
That's right. Absolutely correct.
And it's not about him being awkward or anything like that. He just decided that he could choose not to perceive it. A woman's no.
Answer the question. Why did she say no? He's okay.
She doesn't like him. He doesn't suit her. She has another boyfriend. He's not her type, not her eye color, hair color, or anything else.
The absence of personality traits that evoke a sense of danger guarantees no mating in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. The social prescriptions that a man receives while growing up, caring, offering a hand, giving flowers, remembering the dates of your first kiss, the first time, yes, 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 if he follows all of them and is humorous, polite, empathetic and caring, it guarantees the absence of intergender contact.
I actually disagree with you. I thought differently until the time I stopped choosing aggressive, hot-tempered, emotionally unstable guys. And so when I met the boy who poo, I was thrilled. We have a good time if that bothers you.
No, that actually doesn't bother me.
I don't feel any aggression or danger from him, if that's what you mean. I don't think he can...
But you just actually have your gender roles switched.
What does that mean? That I am a man and he is a woman? Yes, I do not agree with you.
Well, if you call, how old is the boy?
I am 27.
You actually call a 27-year-old man a boy.
What exactly is the problem here?
Well, for you, there is no problem. For any person, a man with self-respect, this is a huge problem.
So you think that if he hears that I called him a boy...
I have no doubt. He has no self-respect on this matter. I speak from the position of...
I do not respect him because I indeed called him a boy.
In any society throughout the history of humanity, 100% of people, regardless of gender and age, would answer yes.
Why, can you tell me?
I can tell you why.
Come on.
Yes, well, what I just said is a fact.
Basically everything except this argument.
This is not an argument, I'm making an observation. What seems unchangeable and completely normal to you is actually a fluctuation. Humanity has existed for tens of thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years. A situation where an adult man can be called a boy, and he won't be offended by it.
I can call any boy that... And I can call you a boy. And I can call him a boy. And him. And that doesn't mean that I don't respect.
This is literally what it says.
Can I be called a girl?
No.
Why?
Are you perhaps an adult woman?
Is this more disrespectful than the girl?
Because it is exactly the opposite. A man strives for maturity, for combat readiness, and for manifestation. A woman strives to become younger.
It's not that you could actually call me a woman, but you said an adult woman.
How to say it?
Grandmother.
Do you want me to say an adult woman?
A man. At what age can a boy no longer be called a boy?
It's not allowed. What's allowed or not allowed?
At what age is this considered disrespect?
This is a very big problem in society. It lies in the fact that there is no period of initiation from boy to man. Throughout the history of humanity, this has existed, but it is absent in modern society.
Would you like this problem to exist in society?
It's easier to live this way.
Well, indeed, many countries have created it in the form of an army. This is a reverse process. Why is this a reverse process?
Because it is a loss of independence. It is a deprivation of subjectivity.
So, then in what form do you see this line to avoid confusing a boy with a man?
I am not authorized to say how to do this. I can say what is not there. I have my own thoughts, but they are not universal. I cannot say, let's all do it this way. If you ask me, I will tell you that there are indeed certain skills that definitely shape an adult person. Independent economic activity, possession of weapons, possession of basic survival skills, etc.
But if he can do everything but shoot?
How would you describe a girl who cannot dress herself? She can't. Wouldn't you say that she dresses poorly? No, she just dresses very poorly. You wouldn't say that she is unworthy of life. It's just that you know she has personality traits. She is out of place. She is absent.
I can't say that there are girls who dress poorly because each girl has her own vision of what absolutely makes her beautiful. For some people, it's really fun to wear super short skirts, while for others, it's amusing to wrap themselves in some kind of oversized hoodie and hang some flowers here.
Do you think there is such a thing as good and bad music? So, according to you, it's impossible to determine what is good and what is bad when it comes to Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, and Klava Koka.
There is no good and bad here.
By the way, I don't know who Klava Koka is. It just sounds funny.
There is no good or bad here. There is only what has already been immortalized. Indeed, the genius of this work has been proven. And yes, Klava Koka, like many artists from Blockstar, unfortunately, does not create genius works. But that does not mean that some of it is bad and some of it is good.
So that's my question. I mean, you can't, when you play Klava Koka or Bach, say what's bad and what's good.
On what basis compare? This is pop music, and that's great art that has been immortalized.
They are independent of the genre. Michael Jackson is also a great musician, even though he is pop.
Can you compare Michael Jackson and Beethoven? Who is better?
Is it obvious to you?
You recommend eating mushrooms?
How did it sound? How did it sound? Do you remember?
No, they are sold to you, moreover. You have kicks, which they can be purchased.
Anya, dear, I don't sell psychoactive mushrooms.
Fly agarics.
I do not sell fly agarics. I sell dried fly agarics. They are not psychoactive, dried fly agarics. Why? They are sold through my partner link from another store. I definitely buy from them. I absolutely like it, and I recommend it.
Do you eat fly agarics?
Yes, microdosing.
How much per day?
1 or 2 capsules. It's very beneficial. There are scientific studies. Of course, if you overdo it, you'll be in trouble.
I studied this issue through scientific research, but I was just somehow arguing with a person who recommended mushrooms. No scientific studies that have an evidence base.
What determines the evidence base?
Recognized by the scientific community. Are you well aware?
If the scientific community adopts a resolution, Arsen Markaryan is a woman. Will we base our stance on it?
You are exaggerating and overdoing it.
I'm explaining to you that if we are talking about science, the word consensus cannot be used as an argument.
How long have you been eating mushrooms, for instance?
No more than 2 years.
How much has your life changed?
I just became calmer.
Do you use anything else?
Listen, I forgot to ask a question. Have you ever tried microdosing?
Of course not.
You have high expectations. There is no effect. There is nothing. In other words, nothing changes.
No, I just don't consider the time when I eat what I'm told to eat. There are doctors who say you shouldn't eat this. Okay.
Classic. I have been preparing for this since 2010. If you open the article on Wikipedia and look at the social harm in terms of severity, addiction, and the physical effects of different substances, you will see that psilocybin mushrooms are at the very bottom, lower than fly agarics. We will censor this, let's just say magic mushrooms. Nothing exists below magic mushrooms. Alcohol is in the upper right corner by all indicators. In terms of social harm, physical harm, and the severity of addiction, any person who consumes anything in any form is infinitely more of a drug addict than a person who microdoses or uses any substance. There is more to infinity. Just because some law or some document or some doctor came out with it somewhere, it doesn't mean anything. Do you know what children's cough syrup was made of 70 years ago? Yes, I do. Thin alcohol. Just like that. Did people with higher education decide this?
No, wait. We are talking literally about the post-war period, when there was no proper education.
What made you think that education is normal now?
People are obviously more informed now because in cough syrups.
In 50 years, same.
Yes, but now they don't add it to cough syrups. What?
In 50 years, scientists will gather and say that certain forms of treatment for diseases were absolutely ridiculous. So what is the question then?
You only consume just one type of mushroom, right?
Are you really interested in this? Yes, I want to talk to you about it on a regular basis. I use everything from Chinese medicine, lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, and others. Of the psychoactive ones, there are 2, fly agarics and magic mushrooms. I won't name them, but everyone knows them, starting with the letter P.
What do they provide?
There is my favorite section. About the huge scientific studies showing that they alleviate post-traumatic stress disorder, symptoms of depression, reduce aggression, unlock creativity, and help regain social skills that were missed in childhood. Personal. Unnecessary. Personal. I don't like microdosing. It's just inconvenient. It's legal in very few places in the countries. Therefore, I've probably had about 7 to 8 trips in my life, each of which made me a radically more adequate person.
Radically. So you went off somewhere with some people and you gorged on mushrooms?
No, by myself.
Did you go alone where no people engorge on mushrooms?
Why overindulge? Why such a connotation?
Many did you eat?
There are moderate dosages and there are heroic ones. I had a heroic dosage once for 4 days in a row. Heroic, how much is that? Yeah, look. Am I really explaining this well? 2 grams is a serious, hefty trip. 5 grams is a state of almost complete insanity. That is to say, a person is drooling, and 5 grams is referred to as a heroic dosage.
Heroic. Why heroic?
I really want to bring something with me, feed you and your team, and see how you all say later whether it was easy or not, because it's just a mess there. All your phobias, all your fears, all your childhood traumas are indeed laid bare, completely unisolated from how you have separated yourself from them. You keep worrying just like the first time, all the grievances, all the losses, all the pains, all the fears. You remember that you are mortal, that you will die sooner or later, and that your parents will leave. All of this completely envelops you. The mechanism of how magic mushrooms work is that they are a powerful dissociative. That is, the neural connections that we have in our brain, the connections between them are disrupted, and a person sees all their life experiences as if for the first time. You remember your perception before you knew or saw the first death before your eyes. It was a more beautiful world. Well, I don't know, it's life experience, but let's say I saw how a person died or was killed. Before that, when I didn't think about it, I had a different consciousness. And over time, I come to terms with this thought. I become calmer. It settles down.
This is a protective mechanism of our psyche, and it should be. Why bring it up?
Because it is an unexperienced thing, it haunts.
How has she not lived?
Because living and isolating oneself are two different things.
To process emotions means to live through them. It means thinking, accepting, and processing emotions.
Let me give you an example. Since I was 20, I stopped caring about what my father thinks of me in terms of success. Whether I'm successful or not, whether I'm living right or not, I really don't care. I just live my life. My dad is like that, old-fashioned, and I'm fine with it. I arrive in Amsterdam. I take 10 grams of mushrooms, throw them in, and realize that nothing in my life matters at all except for his approval. It always has. I clearly see that everything I did in my life, I did just so he would look at me with pride, and I isolated myself because of that. I made up such a story for myself. I really felt nothing. So what if Dad says I'm a fool? It's fine. I don't care. I met with myself in solitude, realized, and now I can't unsee it.
Has it made your life better?
It became easier after understanding why I am unhappy, with more money, more success, more women, having always dreamed of women around. All the childish, silly desires have been fulfilled, but the face looks like it's about to hang. Why? Because the real meaning of why I started all this was that I wanted my father to say that everything is fine with me, that I am actually doing well.
All of this can be done literally in therapy without mushroom trips. And the reason I literally prefer this option is that I discussed.
You don't know what you're talking about?
You don't know what you're talking about. I discussed this with someone who understands this issue better than you.
I spat in his mouth. Listen to me carefully.
Wait a second.
No, wait. You invited me, and I'm telling you, is that okay? You can interrupt me too. Look, what is a trip? This is a transcendental experience. That is to say, there are people who experience certain sensations that others do not. Conditionally speaking, imagine that I am blind. You tell me how beautiful the dawn is. I say, yes, that is the dawn. I spoke with a naturalist in order to discuss whether therapeutic treatment or mushrooms are better. One must try them a bit.
I want to tell you a story about how we discussed this. And I was considering, probably from a curious perspective, the possibility that one day I would connect with this world. I was clearly and explicitly explained that there is a personality type called schizotypal. These are people who have relatives suffering from schizophrenia. I have them. There are quite a few. And overall, I know that my tendency, well, my sort of asociality, somehow harmonizes with schizotypy. But I don't have that diagnosis. However, if I were to take any psychoactive substances, for example alcohol, including that, I don't use them. Good for you. If I were to use narcotics, if I were to use mushrooms, schizophrenia in my head would happen with about 100% probability.
No one is telling you to start with heroic doses. You can take even the smallest microdose just to get a distant understanding of what it's about. No one has gone crazy from a microdose. Open the article on Wikipedia and just read it. Pseudo-mushrooms on Wikipedia. Just read it. There are just a plethora of studies showing, for example, that 80% of terminal cancer patients, even after the most modest dosages, experience a disappearance of depression symptoms. Can you imagine what that means? You're just lying there, on the brink of the other side.
Does it disappear from the hero? No. Does it disappear from the sea?
No, just no, really, though.
Well, I mean, no. You can. They say the same about marijuana. You can smoke it, and then it helps sick people feel better.
There is not a single person who has sniffed something and had their depression symptoms disappear. That does not exist.
There are other studies that suggest that other narcotic substances elevate people's mood when they are in the advanced stages of cancer. Regarding Wikipedia, I do not consider it a good source to use as an example because, after all, it is not a medical study.
Now listen to what I said. I said there is a list of studies. I didn't say that the Wikipedia article itself is the source, right? There is a list there. You open it, study it, and take a look. And about what I'm telling you, let me tell you about the dosages. 5 is considered heroic. I had 4 days on a dosage of 10 to 12 grams. Why? Because I had serious traumatic things in my life that I wanted to confront unfiltered. What were those things? Very different. My whole life has been one big mess. What were these heroic dosages specifically? I had an extremely hard time coping with my father's passing. I couldn't handle it well. No psychologist or psychotherapist would have helped me integrate with this the way I have integrated. I really indeed accepted his departure very calmly. And my complaint indeed about psychotherapy is that she is substituting the concept. Right now you won't agree with me. Let me finish. Then you won't agree with me. There is nominal and observable. Nominal refers to what psychotherapy teaches, understood in that way. What I actually observe in my experience is that after psychotherapy, a person becomes significantly flatter, less vibrant, less deeply emotionally engaged, and much more soulless in many cases. This is what I see in their lives and interactions with others. Although this is, let's say, a not entirely useless thing, it simply has a side effect that needs to be adjusted. And there isn't. You made such a contrast that I choose between this and that. I choose psychotherapy. There is no between. These are just different things.
Well, I disagree with your statement, but I won't dispute it because we really have different opinions on this matter. However, I would like to ask about something else.
I find it strange why people have such an emotional reaction to the fact that I consume mushrooms.
Because when you talk about doing this in a public restaurant, promoting microdosing, you apparently don't quite understand that a very large group of people hears that I consume mushrooms. They don't do this with microdosing. Anya, those are their problems. They start with microdosing, move on to some larger doses, and their minds are scattered.
So let me get this straight. If I say that I drink 4 liters of water a day and someone drinks 20 and dies, am I to blame?
You are not to blame for this.
So where does the emotional reaction come from exactly? Perhaps, maybe...
You can't compare mushrooms and 4 liters of water.
Explain why.
Because water is your biological necessity. And you come and say, I biologically need to drink liquid for my kidneys to function.
There are a huge number of people who do not drink water at all.
This is a big problem.
You think so, but they are alive. All right, let's not beat around the bush, I'm telling you. I'll give you another example. I play 4 games of Dota a week to keep from going crazy. Someone comes along and plays 20 games a day, and their whole life falls apart. Where does the emotional reaction come from regarding what I do with my life? I really want to understand this. I don't get why there's so much attention. He eats a mushroom, so what?
Because you are eating hallucinogenic psychoactive substances such as...
The whole country is getting high on absolute neurotoxin and sending its neurons out in the mornings. Why are there no questions about this?
And no one is saying that there are questions about it.
There are absolutely no questions about this. Absolutely no questions. Absolutely. Once again, if I go out and say that I love 2 glasses of wine for my health, or 1 or something else, well, that's just the aesthetic of a person's life. This is called alcoholism. It severely damages the brain to the extent that the harm is irreversible and causes permanent damage. Psychiatry has a scientifically proven effect on improving cognitive abilities, improvements.
So you think you really became smarter when you know that the whole Silicon Valley is on microdosing? This is probably not the most pleasant example for me. I don't really keep track of this part of the industry.
The pinnacle of the technological development of modern society, where all innovations and discoveries occur, all the Elon Musk and other engineers are people who consume microdoses.
How do you know that Elon Musk uses microdoses?
You know, it's like asking where you got the information that athletes are on steroids. Show me at least one proof that any athlete is on steroids. There is a context of events. That's how it is. Everyone knows this. You can choose not to believe me, but this is known by everyone. The phenomenon of microdosing came from creative individuals, from engineers, from programmers, from startup founders. They rediscovered it. And then ordinary people watch and think, damn, look, in Silicon Valley, people are getting high on microdosing. We should also try it and see what happens.
Let's go back to women and your experience with women. Yes. There is an opinion that...
No, not... Well, the joke about 12-year-olds, no. Well, about this, about the joke. The joke was about 12, 13-year-olds.
There is an opinion on the internet that you are a man hurt by a woman. Is that true?
What does it mean to be offended?
You were very obviously hurt, and very deeply.
Imagine that. In the city, there is a company that deals with real estate rentals, which enjoys unconditional authority. Everyone believes that they are sinless.
Why, can't you talk about yourself? Tell me about yourself. Don't give me examples. I'm talking about your feelings.
The problem is that we often attach various different meanings to the word offended.
And this story, did the women hurt you?
That's a completely different question. Were you offended or hurt? Of course you were.
Are you upset with them for that? Did they hurt you?
I will take a pause. I want you to let me feel what you felt. Do you agree with me that these are monstrously different questions? Of course. They hurt me by stuffing crap into their heads, and they stuffed crap into my head. When these two pieces of crap met, nothing good came of it.
What does they give me crap mean? What is it about?
There are normal, adequate behavior programs, correct, environmentally friendly. In the process of growing up, they filled girls' heads with nonsense. In the worldview that they filled boys' heads with, yes, please, I don't mind calling it that. And when these two pieces of crap collide, people cannot help but inflict psychological and sometimes even physical harm on each other. That's all. I do not consider women to be villains who carry within them the genes of harm and malice and all that. I simply fell victim to macro processes.
What is this macroscopic process?
The lack of upbringing. We live in a country where parents neglect their children completely.
So that's how it is. How did these painful stories happen?
What exactly happened? Sorry, I didn't quite understand you. Do you want to tell me the whole story?
Yes. How did Arsen Markaryan form on the internet?
In life, probably. After all, before the internet. Probably before the internet. One of the central stories for me was that I had a girlfriend with whom I had very strong positive emotions. In their seriousness, I pushed her away. That is, at the age of 16, 17, people do not think about ambitions or big goals. I want my boyfriend to dress well. I can go to the club with him without embarrassment. That's where we had a serious falling out. At one point, we met beautifully, which protected me from a thug, walked me home, we became friends and started dating. And somewhere after, 6 months, a year, this story began that I wasn't fashionable, that I wasn't modern, that I was somehow gloomy. I was already dreaming of success back then. I wanted to stand out, to represent something. I had serious emotions for her. If I had stayed with her, I admit that I might not have had any other women for the rest of my life. I was satisfied with everything there. I am romantic, emotional, and very much the type to get attached. Basically, I think I was ready to become a father since I was about 18 and all that. I have a strong sense of internal responsibility for those who depend on me. And she literally left me with a justification. If you ask him about anything, he will tell you something different. I say what she told me. Who knows what else? How did I see it? I don't know what was on her mind. This is a funny story that my followers know. It's an inside joke between us. She comes up to me and asks, "Have you seen this kind of writing on the walls in Samara?" I said no. He said, "Can you imagine? This one guy paints everywhere." And 2 weeks later, she left me for him. So she literally traded me for a guy who has painted graffiti in many places. She wrote me such a long message that I am finished, that I will never achieve anything in my life, that I will remain gray mold. I have it hanging in a frame separately. I can read it periodically. But unfortunately, I can't find it. I am trying to locate it and can't.
But was there a moment when you fixed the framework?
No, I memorized it. I want to show it because people don't believe such words can be said.
And it affected me so much that you will improve my life.
I understand, but it's impossible. I read it once. I haven't reread it. It's just impossible to forget. For me, it was very painful. It was my problem from the start that I grew up too early. All the relationships around me were toy-like, and that was the one thing I didn't understand. I was out of the loop. I thought that everyone was serious with each other, so it really traumatized me. Overall, I was haunted for a long time by the story of devaluation and comparisons.
So you really actually compared the new girls to her?
On the contrary.
On the contrary, did girls love you?
Yes. I was too nice a guy, too polite, too well-mannered. You can't be like that with neurotic people. For them, it's a weakness that they perceive as a breather, during which they can take out their frustrations on you for everything bad that has been done to them.
Being as good as you actually think, why were you attracted to such women?
5 seconds to answer you. I am generally very trusting and open. It is very easy to deceive me. I don't close the doors at home. So it never occurred to me that such things could be done. It just didn't cross my mind. When I entered university, I studied there for 2 months. We were getting to know each other in the group, chatting, and one girl in the course says, "Oh, Arsen, is that you?" Damn, she recognized me. I was already known in Samara. I threw an American-style party. I was memorable. At 16, I had a big beard and looked like a man. I think she recognized me from martial arts parties or something else. He says my best friend, no, he says my boyfriend's best friend was hanging out with your girlfriend, and she kept complaining that she was afraid you would find out and kill them both. That is, 2 years after this story, I learned that she had also been seeing someone else before she left me. I have already left there, diving down to 200 meters. If you don't want me, if you don't love me, just say no and walk away. Why did this even need to happen? What was the second one? Perhaps a bit more specific question?
What was she like?
The situation was such that I liked her at first sight. I wanted to date her, but I was younger than her. She told me that she couldn't date me because I hadn't established myself in life yet. She was already an adult and needed to show something to her father, among other things.
How much older she than you?
For 3 years, I nodded, left, and started grinding for money. I was 19 years old, just turned, and I could already make about 300, 400,000 a month. I remember it clearly. I could easily make 200,000 in a couple of hours. Back then, that was a lot. I went back to her, but she still said no because she had unfinished relationships with an extremely inadequate character who didn't love her, hit her, drank, and just sat at home. In other words, he was the complete opposite of who I was. I sat there for a long time looking at this picture. Why did she give me a social request, saying be this way, and I will say yes? When I fulfilled it and came back, she said no at all, in favor of the one who breaks bottles over my head. It was very strange. This gave me a powerful rethinking of what a woman says, how she reacts, and what she will actually do. These are different things. I know in my head that most girls are absolutely literate. This has no value because they do not act based on reason.
What did you feel about this?
I felt like I was being deceived. And it outraged me that when I started talking about it, everyone told me it wasn't the case. I understand that it is indeed the case.
What's the matter? What do you think?
A woman doesn't choose with her head, she chooses with her reptilian brain. It was simply more dangerous.
Did you not think that this is just an unhealthy woman who is used to being in unhealthy danger?
Yes, I told you that.
And so not all women...
I told you that with a woman as an object in a spherical vacuum, there are no problems. Most women are neurotic. Most women grew up in conflict-ridden families. Most women did not receive any emotional support in their close relationships.
But that doesn't mean that most of these women need an equally abusive guy by their side.
This is a fact. No. The fact is that in the cultural layer, there is a recorded tendency of women to people so foolish that they create an impression of self-confidence and indeed competence.
On the contrary, one can show and prove to women that they need to choose differently. Who needs it? For example, I work with women, feminists, and feminism in general.
Are you involved in this?
While you are busy teaching men to maintain this roughness, these manipulations. Who told you this? Who told you this? Who told you this? Your videos. Which ones? Do you want me to read your quotes to you? Come on, come on. Your quote. Women are the cause of all household problems. This is recorded in folklore and religious books.
This is a fact.
This is indeed your quote.
If the great philosophers of antiquity say it is better to live alone in a cave than with a nagging wife, if Socrates says you must marry, if it goes well, you will be happy, and if it goes poorly, you will become a philosopher, and if there is Arthur Schopenhauer, who wrote a phenomenal treatise expressing his grievances against women. This is indeed recorded throughout the history of humanity, in all religions and in all traditions.
And do you really think that all women are to blame for all domestic problems?
If you listen to me for 2 minutes, I will respond to you. I believe that the evolutionary process is such that men are domesticating themselves. In other words, with each generation, we are becoming less aggressive. It's 2,000 years ago, everyone was like a Beshimbayev. There were no breaks. Imagine that there was not even Christianity.
I think this is a terrible example, shouldn't be mentioned.
On the contrary, I bring this up to highlight how positive the changes are, considering that, you know Drobiszewski, the anthropologist, 70–80% of the skulls of women found in ancient excavations have broken nasal passages. What kind of society was it where 4 out of 5 women had broken noses? It was an extremely inadequate society, and the process of human evolution as a species is leading to men domesticating themselves. Little Yupits was once a wolf. And just like that, a man becomes softer and softer, more tactful, more back and forth. The process of self-domestication does not occur in women because the language of aggression in women is not physical, but emotional. As a rule, words cannot kill. Therefore, women are allowed any form of emotional or psychological aggression, and it does not particularly raise eyebrows. And on a social level, there is no such thing as a center for the protection of men affected by emotional abuse. So create one. Let me say this now. Look, 2 opposing processes are occurring, the same speed. With each passing century, men are becoming more calm, less aggressive, less prone to violence, and less likely to reach for swords, axes, and weapons. Women do not have a stop on emotional aggression. Emotional aggression, which often manifests in various forms, especially in closed groups, where a neurotic woman who has not reflected on her dark sides becomes a source of conflicts, where dynamics can become quite complex. In other words, the woman is not acting on her own simply because she is drunk. Rather, it is because, from the perspective of society, there is no opportunity to confront her dangerous shadow sides. Look, let me explain. Any man who would be sitting here when you said that I can call you a boy would, in 100 out of 100 cases, say that this is, well, a claim for conflict. I just told you 5 seconds ago that when a boy is called a man who respects himself, it's an insult. You say I can call you a boy, and him. That's a conflict. If a 22-year-old guy were sitting in your place and said he could call me a boy, he would know that it would create a real conflict. A real one. The interview could have gone on. I could have stood up to him, whatever. That's it.
Let's return to the philosophers who wrote that all women carry in them the everyday truth. Are these just the first quotes? Don't you find it strange that you are using as an illustration and as an argument a quote that, not a quote, but rather a thought that was indeed written, actually written?
A long time ago?
A long time ago, when women had no education, no social status at all, and a woman could not, under any circumstances, allow herself to write something like this.
They can write. What difference does it make?
No, she couldn't release it.
No, let them write now.
Right now they are writing, writing absolutely. You are raising an argument.
Socrates was just a smart guy?
Socrates was a long time ago, when there was a different society. And you often use arguments like these, which were created and written by certain men, who were influential at that particular time when women could not contest them in any way, shape, or form.
When I say this, I don't consider it an absolute argument. I understand that it is both an appeal to authority and to social. It's just one of those indirect things. You're right, it really can't serve as an absolute argument. But I probably should have clarified that I don't consider this an absolute argument, just because of a number of, look, people are saying this too. Regarding what you mentioned, we will bring it into modernity. In any male group I have been in, when one woman enters, its fabric starts to deteriorate. This can be explained for a long time as to why this happens. I am, in principle, a supporter of the separate existence of genders. It seems to me that there would be far fewer conflicts in a school with boys and girls separated, in the workplace as well. I'm not saying that it should be done this way.
And how do you see them meeting in a harsh life? How will they be?
Sure, no problem. Look, I'm giving you a real situation. The wrestling hall, I'm training, and we have a normal practice. 3 women walk in. They all, damn it, all stop their workout and start acting like idiots. Looking around, they start to show themselves. Something else. I'm not saying that the woman is to blame for this. I'm just saying that a man and a woman together create a rather conflict-prone environment, and this is also a modern phenomenon.
You say, I am not saying that the woman is to blame for this.
If a man is messed up, he cannot fight, and is constantly looking at women, he is a fool.
So maybe the problem lies with him. Perhaps the issue is that men need to look at women a little differently. This is impossible. If he is not castrated, this is impossible.
If he is not neutered, it is impossible.
Well, how is that impossible?
It's very simple. Imagine that you and I are sitting here right now and not eating for a week. We are presented with hot steam coming from the pilaf lagman, and we are told, don't perceive this as food, perceive it as a culinary masterpiece.
Well, no.
Explain it like I'm 5.
Like to a 5-year-old. Food is your biological need.
A woman is not my need.
You can grow up. Your biological need is ejaculation. You can take care of that, and everything will be fine. It's not possible to do that with food.
No, I won't be okay. I need physical contact. I need emotional contact. I need an exchange of microflora.
That's fine, but all of this is still not a reason to objectify women and say that the issue lies within women. Perhaps the problem with men is that they cannot control themselves.
Think I have no complaints about men.
You don't really actually express them.
How do you know you haven't expressed it? The whole channel is built on the fact that you are worthless because you don't earn money, you can't fight, you can't shoot, and you don't support your parents.
Well, that's a strange assessment of whether a man is good or not. A strange evaluation of whether he is a member of society.
First of all, I absolutely don't care about society. I have no respect for it. There is no lower authority than society for them. In the year 43 in one country, everyone had a healthy right shoulder. And there, it was just as possible to say, are you ignoring society? Who told you that such processes are not happening right now? They are definitely happening, returning to this point. A healthy man does not make a choice to perceive someone as a sexual object or not. His body does that for him. This does not give a free pass for rape, harassment, or unwanted advances. What I am saying is that a man cannot control what he feels. Yes, he can control what he does. However, aside from perceiving someone as a sexual object, a man can also perceive them as a person. Of course, but he cannot help but perceive them as a non-sexual object. This is my belief.
You are the ambassador of tournament men. You talk about it a lot. I even tried to Google its meaning.
This is a term by Robert Sapolsky.
What exactly are tournament men, perhaps?
This is a certain neurodiversity which consists of the fact that the man has elevated. No, there are tournament and non-tournament types of monkeys. Saying men have tournament types is a modern idea. Initially, the discussion was about species vary, including tournament types. Chimpanzees are also tournament types. And when I invest in this, I am talking about how there are clearly and distinctly defined men in the population who have a strong and evident demand for increased and enhanced physical resources, for greater and more extensive access to women, for a certain and specific objectification of women, and for, let's say, a neurotic and intense ambition. There are people who are baffled as to why they should have only one wife and cannot sleep with others. They just fry your brains. The real question is how all of this will be implemented. Honestly, openly, lying, deceiving, those are different questions.
There are women everywhere with the same questions. And when such people meet, It is in open relationships or open relationships.
Sometimes it happens that a woman agrees that there are many women and one man. It can be different. That is both ways. In general, I am answering your question. There are indeed individuals whose biological nature is more pronounced. In fact, the modern social glue does not accommodate them well. They cannot truly be themselves without feeling large doses of judgment.
Are you one of those?
Of course.
Are you a tournament man?
In fact, I could sit down 50,000 times in this life, smoke bamboo, do nothing, and I would have enough money to last 1 billion years and still have something left. I am definitely throwing myself into the fray and doing things that have nothing to do with my comfort. I have a task, I have meanings, I push them to the detriment of myself, to the detriment of my comfort, to the detriment of anything.
Are there tournament women because of you? Of course there are. Have you met them?
Of course. A huge amount.
What you building with relationship?
No, I'm just not interested.
Why are you not interested?
For me, it's cringy.
Why just...
This is it. Aesthetic cringe. For you, for example, is some flat 2D patriarchal cringe that says, a man is the best. Is this aesthetic cringe for you?
Of course.
The same thing?
I am not like that myself. It is not okay because I cannot relate to a person in that way.
So,
and why is this acceptable for you?
What exactly?
Is it okay for you, perhaps?
Everyone can do what they wish.
All right. Are you satisfied with this lifestyle? Yes, but at the same time, you can't choose a woman with similar views on this life.
Yes, that's my preference.
What exactly do you not like?
Women like men who are taller than them. This is normal. Women are attracted to men who have a higher status than they do. It's normal. We don't say, if you want to fit in, then be a man who's 6'3". You should be 6'3" yourself. We don't say such nonsense. It's the same thing.
I understand you. So, tournament men. How should I put it, perhaps?
I speak Russian. I am mostly listened to by Russians and people from the CIS republics. Everyone who speaks the Russian language. A large number of Russians and Russian speakers. And their families have a strong demand for the old traditional way of life, including the old Christian way, or a way similar to the Muslim one, where the man is the master of the house, has several wives in their households, and so on. For these people, there is no megaphone that says, actually, we would like this. But the degree of judgment that falls on us keeps us from speaking out. In fact, indeed. Since I am not afraid of society, I am independent, I do not go to work, I do not need to be invited, I can afford being crucified on social media. And I say if I were talking about some nonsense that only exists in my head, I would never have so many viewers and listeners in my life. Let me give you an example. When the elections between Clinton and Trump took place in 2016, all polls indicated that Clinton should win. Trump won. They analyzed it for a long time and understood why. People were so ashamed to admit that they would vote for Trump that they even lied about it in anonymous surveys. And what seems to you is that if you scroll through TikTok, I scrolled through TikTok for 4 hours for the first time in my life yesterday. I can't believe how really popular I am. Apparently, I counted over 400 TikToks in over 5 hours that mocked, insulted, or mentioned me. And if you look at it this way, it seems that I have 0 supporters. The problem is that any normal person who is not a psychopath like I am fears social condemnation. That's why they remain silent.
So you clearly know that you are a psychopath.
Well, if we're being direct, a sociopath. Society is not an argument for me in anything at all. A psychopath is still a person who feels no empathy, twists cat's tails, and so on.
All sociopaths are recidivist convicts. They have a propensity for violence.
Well, I'm telling you, it's disgusting to me. So I'll explain it this way. For me, society is simply not an argument in anything.
There is socially adaptive psychopathy. This is when you are in such a position.
I have empathy. It is excessive. I suffer from it. This is the main message I convey to my audience. Ivan, open your soul. Do you understand? I mean, if you look from the outside, you might think that I've gathered a bunch of losers, and we're just being losers together. I gathered the most delicate dandelions, the most sensitive ones, the cutest little ones, the most re-educated by their mothers, and I explain, I say, dear, this world will wipe its feet on you like on a cheap armrest. If you do not learn to respect yourself, to know you will be manipulated, used, no one will value you. Neither mom nor dad nor Uncle Petya nor Aunt Motia, no one.
I heard that we started talking about TikTok. Yes, I saw a clip from your live stream regarding our meeting.
Yes.
You said you would take him to the mountains and teach him reason. Yes. Do you think you are succeeding?
Well, that's a joke.
Oh, that was a joke.
How do you imagine it?
So that it wouldn't be a joke, I wanted to ask, how did you envision this interview?
I thought it would be more fun, to be honest. I expected it to be a bit more, let's say, less formal. But other than that, I pretty much expected it.
All right. Polygamy is a healthy topic. But what about if a woman has many men?
Anya, dear, I don't care at all. I mean, it's up to whoever wants. The main thing is, don't touch me, and I won't touch you.
Do you specifically want polygamy?
I don't want to. I have no other choice.
Do you have a wife right now?
I have women in complicated, fabricated relationships with whom I interact on a stable basis. How many are there? Why such details? There are a few, more than two. How many? Listen. First of all, it's a dynamic figure. It constantly changes, getting smaller and larger. My attitude towards women is more practical. I don't get emotionally attached strongly. I can't. What about them? They are aware. I won't get attached. I can't. I'm dead inside. If that works for you, you are morally ready for the fact that I'm just a good guy next to you, but there will likely be no closeness. Probably a 99% chance. My position, which I explain to everyone who listens to me, is that only a coward does not say everything to someone's face. You know about any of your traits? You know about any of your preferences? Say it clearly. A huge number of families in Russia actually practice polygamy just quietly, sneakily, and hiding like a jackal. A number of men live with 2 families, some with 3 families, and it's fine, no one is aware. My speech is about being honest and choosing each other based on complete information, rather than hiding parts of ourselves because we fear we won't be accepted.
You presented a thesis. This is your quote. There shouldn't always be 2 wives, but ideally 5 because 2 will serve.
This is a note. Any person who is alive will tell you that having 2 wives is a very conflict-generating situation. You need to add a 3rd one.
Do you think this will already be a conflict-generating situation?
Well, people who enter into such relationships are spineless, and I think it doesn't matter whether it's 2, 3, or however many. I think the more there are, the easier it will be because their self-esteem will drop to the maximum and they won't struggle.
And in relationships where one man is sleeping with different women, is there sometimes you too, who also enters without the backbone of a woman?
Just women, because neurobiology dictates behavior. I think you will find it very uninteresting to listen to this now if I start.
I think it shows a very small amount of disrespect for yourself if you agree to such conditions.
You can think that way. Indeed, throughout human history, it has been normal.
Where exactly is it?
Everywhere, all over the world.
How do you view a male-dominated state?
For me, any idea that involves an element of coercion simply because we decided so is unnatural. I see no difference between fascism, vaginocapitalism, a male state, and some kind of castrating feminism. I'm sure something like that exists. Castrating feminism. No, nothing like that. Well, I founded it now. You can't found it. You're a man. Why? You can't found a man. I founded a feminism. A man can found. Are you an intersectional feminist? No? Then what are you?
I love many movements, but I feel closest to radical ones.
You are a radical feminist. Radical feminism. A man cannot be feminism. Markaryan feminism. Only a Markaryan can be feminism. I founded it.
No, there is the term profeminism, but...
No, I'm just telling you, I founded my own doctrine, that's what I called it, and there's nothing you can do about it. You don't have an exclusive mandate. I am a feminist, radical, absolute. I support giving all women in Russia firearms and free shooting lessons.
Why should all women be issued firearms?
Because it will radically lower the level of any violent crimes against women. Radically, when you walk down the street, you see that now I can approach, grab someone, and nothing will happen to me. But they are all strapped in, and they all have a gun with live ammunition.
This is literally a path to, it's close to a revolution.
What other revolution?
No revolution whatsoever?
A person is not an animal. They should have the right to defend themselves.
Yes. And every woman, according to the law of the Russian Federation, has the right to go and obtain a permit and acquire a weapon?
Yes, that's correct.
We can do this.
I am in favor of providing it for free through a government program. Can you imagine? I support all women. Let them refuse if they want. while someone else can take two for themselves and their friends, one in the car and one in the bag. And you see this as a solution? I have no idea. What you think about rape and any violent crime. It is the application of force against force. There is only another force. Either walk hand in hand with a police officer, or create conditions in which attacking is uninteresting, unpleasant, and not very desirable.
I agree that women should carry self-defense items, but under no circumstances should it be firearms, as in Russia.
I'm more of a feminist. Everyone see...
No, you are just not a woman in Russia.
So what?
What does it mean that I am not a woman in Russia?
I can say you're not a fool, and so what? How many times have you been beaten on the street?
Not me once.
I have been beaten many times. Do you think you have lived a more dangerous life than I have? Answer my question.
We are bringing Pepper with us, but I am not.
I won't continue this interview unless you answer who has lived a more dangerous life.
You or me?
More dangerous. I was beaten dozens of times. My brother was almost killed at the bus stop where we lived our whole lives. Just like that, with the shout, "Beat the non-Russians."
All right. I wasn't beaten up on the street. I had an extremely interesting mother, and an evening with her could end every single day until I turned 16 with the possibility that I might be killed.
Once again,
we will definitely compare this as planned.
You say that I am not a woman in Russia, implying that I do not understand what danger is.
You don't truly understand what it means to fully comprehend, own and use a weapon, leading to imprisonment, because we currently have women in the colony who are overcrowded.
Look at what happens when a person who has prepared on the topic encounters someone who thinks about it, even if qualitatively but has not prepared. The essence of carrying a firearm is not that you will have to shoot. Its feature is that you will never have to shoot again. Firearms basically work as follows. The perpetrator loses interest in attacking because it is dangerous. And each victim is dangerous. There are statistics from the States. And America provides a remarkable example of the fact that the more armed the civilian population is, the fewer violent crimes occur there. The less armed, you know that there are no school shootings in Texas. Amazing. Why? Interesting.
But there is a country you are talking about Russia, that is, here 70% of women are in prison for exceeding self-defense.
Because they are unarmed, it is easy and pleasant to attack them.
They ended up there in the end due to excessive self-defense.
Because firearms work very simply. Unlike a knife, a frying pan, a rolling pin, or a fist to the back of the head, it is so dangerous that it creates a sense of caution. Caution. Here comes my drunken fool. Right now, if I hit her on the head, she would just be like, and that's it. I don't really want to anymore. It seems to us now that there are many wars, that everywhere is fighting, but that's not true. The further we go, the fewer wars there are.
There are many wars now. 111 countries are involved, with 111 open military conflicts.
Absolutely important and tragic and geopolitical, however you want to put it. The world shoot me. Yes, I am not a patriot, I admit. What is happening is the special military operation. A terrifying number of people are dying, and no one knows exactly how many. I'll just give you an example. World War II. There was a battle for Stalingrad. At its peak, how many people died in the battle for Stalingrad?
I have no idea.
Hundreds of thousands a day. A day. You've heard of it? You're totally a zoomer. But have you heard about the Afghan War, the Soviet Union, Torfia? How many soldiers died there? Our Soviet ones. Just take a guess. How many do you think? I want to know your feeling.
Damn, well, I think that...
Well, hundreds of thousands, 200 or less or more?
I think it's definitely more than 1 million.
30,000. Can you imagine? That's why I say that our feelings, there are more wars, but their scale is absolutely incomparable. Do you know why? Because the most important states are the bearers of nuclear weapons. It is difficult to fight when nuclear weapons are involved because things can escalate quickly, so it reduces tension. Why am I telling you this? I have been in relationships with at least 3 girls, I don't know of more, who were actually raped. I understand what that is. I have faced these consequences. And these are situations where one needs to work both psychologically and physically. What is my complaint here regarding feminist thought? There are adequate, sane men. Are you conducting propaganda work on them? Do you respect boundaries? Damn, they are already reasonable. They don't do that anymore. Those who listen to you and can hear for more than 5 minutes don't need a lecture on harm and rape. They don't behave that way anyway. They are well-mannered. Boys. All right, I take that into account. I continue. All violent crimes are committed by marginalized individuals, either some mentally unhealthy individuals or others. The characteristic of mentally unhealthy, marginalized people is that they are irrational. It is useless to talk to a perpetrator. It is useless to conduct preventive work with a perpetrator. He understands only the language of power. That's why the word rapist contains the word power within it.
There are very different categories of rape. I understand what you are talking about.
There are also those who touch children.
No, not about that. I just woke up already. You are currently talking about what is happening outside in the barriers. And domestic violence? I tell you this as a victim of rape. It often happens behind the walls of the house, unfortunately. In a place where you were initially positioned as a safe space. And there shouldn't be a situation where you come to a guy's home, you have a gun in your bag, you throw it in the hallway, and he starts to assault you, and you run there. How is that supposed to work?
That's exactly how it works. I'm modeling it for you. This reform has been introduced, and the news started coming in. A man in an apartment attempted to rape a girl, and she shot him. Can you imagine how the culture of consent is increasing? What is this about? Look, please, listen to me very carefully now. A rapist is indeed a person who is incapable of any form of conversation. In order to protect a woman from an attacker, I may not be right, and you may be right. But in any case, the concept remains. To protect a woman from an attacker, there is indeed no other way than to make her more dangerous from the attacker's perspective.
You talk about the extreme cases, but are domestic abusers exactly like that? No.
So good.
Absolutely not, because, well, this is an example from my personal life. Boys would come up to me and say, Anya, I have been watching your videos since I was 14, and I grew up in a completely different environment where women were treated in a completely different way, literally like a piece of meat. Rape is not only when you are taken by physical force, it can also involve psychological coercion or manipulation in any way, shape, or form.
No, this is not rape, the word rape. What you are actually saying is indeed izubedilovani. You say possible to incite violence.
This is no longer rape. This is psychological pressure.
Sex under psychological pressure is also rape. It involves coercion.
Yes, if a woman does not want to participate in sex but is forced to do so, she is being pressured morally. The world, if I listen, the woman does not want to participate in sex like that, but she is being forced to participate as they are morally pressuring her. How does it work? Explain to me how it works. Well, you are a woman, well, these are my needs. She says, I don't want to.
No.
Well, you have to, please. A scandal starts. A scandal, I'm leaving. She doesn't leave. Why?
What does it mean nowhere to go? She is homeless.
Women here withdraw their statements about the beating. No, once again, you say there's nowhere to go.
Is she homeless?
Here she is living with her man and she is not homeless.
Did she end up with the guy from the street?
What difference makes how she got to him?
You say she is homeless? I'm trying to understand. All women in Russia stay in the apartments of men. Where did she live before she started living with him? It's a simple question. Where did she live before she started living with him?
I find it very difficult. You are exaggerating and overdoing it. It's hard for me to behave.
What I am doing right now is called speaking in Russian and asking questions. You say she has nowhere to go? I am just asking how she ended up there. She was born there with him.
I don't know how she ended up there.
Once again, either she has accommodation at her parents' place or she has a place where she lived before. Let her go back there. She hasn't been living at his place for 25 years. So let her return to where she was before.
She has children and she is financially dependent on him. At night she says, I don't want to, but he wants to and takes it. And she does not resist. This is rape.
What will happen if she continues to refuse? He will start hitting her. He will start shooting her.
Well, at some point he will either break up with her or he will rape her, using brute physical force. If you look at you and your activities on the internet, it gives the impression that you have a literally disgusting image. A husband hater who recommends raping women, perceiving them as household objects, should not share property with them after a divorce, and can generally speaking be treated like a piece of clothing, because if you cheated, Do not justify or apologize under any circumstances. And in doing so, you are encouraging men to adopt this consumerist, derogatory model of behavior towards women. And all of this is seasoned with a certain fear, because even your quote, "a woman should not be alone," but two, and not just two, but three or five, so that they all stew in this and fear you.
They didn't turn against each other to betray. They were afraid of you. They weren't afraid of me, but they were afraid of losing me. Look, what you just said can only be said indeed due to unfamiliarity with the material. When we sat down and talked with your team, I asked how deeply you had delved into it.
I sat in your chat, and I didn't see any good attitude towards women or anything like that.
Look, I have very complicated navigation, so I need to see accordingly how to...
I'm sorry, but I absolutely won't be watching those 50 hours of your lectures.
There are not 50.
And 700 hours.
This is actually the minimum. Look, the thing is that I am a certain phenomenon. I don't bother anyone. People come to me, interview me, or invite me to podcasts. Want to understand what I do, but don't engage. It's like actually inviting a violinist for an interview and never really listening to what they play, or inviting a director and not watching what they film. Anyone who has not watched 700 hours of the survey was in the loop, understands that you missed one very important detail that changes everything. I'm saying that, guys, Ivan, if you don't show your true self, people will treat you as a consumer. Do not participate or reciprocate. But when you meet a decent woman who wants to engage in a normal, intimate relationship and love, behave accordingly. It's only about the fact that when a guy grows up, he is not given instructions on what to do if he is treated in a consumerist way. And what does it mean to be treated in a consumerist way? Well, it takes 20 hours of conversation to explain, starting with the trivial point that, in principle, the state is essentially a participant in the relationship between a man and a woman. What the hell is this? Where did it come from? Men and women came together and then parted ways. A sanction for the division of property is coming. This creates both a precedent and a temptation, as well as a practice of targeted scams.
But how can one avoid dividing the property? A woman could, for example, work and contribute, but then she got pregnant and went on maternity leave. The man says he has fallen in love with another woman. I'm leaving for her, taking everything for myself. Is that fair?
This is a complex topic. I will try to answer this question now, but let's move to a simpler plane. Let me put it this way. Is there a practice where a woman enters into a romantic relationship not with a man, but with the lifestyle that he provides, in any conceivable way or form?
Yes, absolutely.
And this practice, on the contrary, in what sense?
An old man decided that he wants to have sex with a 20-year-old girl. Isn't this the same story? He loves her very much.
How many old grandfathers are there exactly, perhaps?
Enough.
Units.
Nearly everyone has died completely.
It only works for the ultra-rich.
Yes, but they are still there.
They're units.
We cannot count them.
We can count them. This is a normal distribution.
Wait, where are the units? There are enough. In Russia.
In the West, it's even more pronounced. There is a normal distribution. Few elderly people, few infants, an average number of middle-aged individuals, few poor people, and few rich people. On average, there are few wealthy old men, simply statistically speaking, in general. And the majority of women enter into relationships not with a man, but with the lifestyle that he provides.
But don't men enter the same relationships with exactly the same worldview in such cases? I want a beautiful, talented one.
I give the guys safety tips. They are not aware that women can be bad. They are not aware that women can be bad, unconsciously. This is a truly scary scenario, and it happens very often. She may be trying to be adequate, but she is not succeeding, and he gets drawn into it, and his life is also slipping away.
You teach healthy relationships.
I even say this in podcasts. I actually have material that whore armor is a form of therapy called Scream Room. Look, I'm explaining to you what I'm doing. A huge number of guys, if someone understands this now, they will realize that I am a saint, not the exact opposite. There are a lot of guys who have an organic hatred for women. They are no longer thinking clearly. To bring them back to their senses, they need to be allowed to shout out and engage in the discourse of, I also hate women, and then gradually guide them towards a constructive conversation. If you had watched Shtukobrania, you would have seen the first 40 minutes are about who our enemy is. The enemy is the one who has a hole between their legs. And then it smoothly transitions to the idea that all problems stem from the fact that you are simply indiscriminate, associating with those who have no king in their head. You need to learn how to determine, skip, and go where the king is in your head. And then everything will be great. And even in this bomb, nothing more misogynistic has ever been recorded in the history of humanity. Although it is very talented and funny, even there I say that only a coward hits a woman, even there. Do you understand? So what is the point? Resentment. Do you understand?
There is certainly resentment in this situation.
If you had watched 700 hours of this material, you would have had no questions other than how to pay for the 10-year subscription. That is the whole point. When I go on podcasts, I get asked questions. Actually, you asked me a slightly different question during the pause, and I will rephrase it. If you are so reasonable, Anna explained to the viewers, asking about my daughters and all that, if you are so reasonable, so loving, why is that image so bad? I have a principled position. I do not filter my speech based on the stupidity of my interlocutor. That is not my problem. So, if a person cannot, for example, understand that I am saying that every man perceives a woman as a potentially sexual object, and if he cannot understand that from this it does not follow that I permit, encourage, or say that it is normal to rape, that is not my problem. Whose problem is it? His, for not being able to understand this. This is a principled position. I don't cater to idiots. If a person cannot understand that a rape guide is a joke, then you realize that there are people who seriously sit and think that I'm sitting here like, okay, now I will record this. What's next? A guide on how to make a bomb. A guide on how to hide evidence after a murder.
Don't you think that Yes. I am a victim of rape, and not just once. I go online and see a video where a man says that if a woman sees that her attacker is willing to go all the way, then she will 100% definitely enjoy it. Am I stupid?
Who planned it? Who laid it out?
And that makes me uncomfortable. Or did you say something wrong?
Some person took the video, edited it, and posted it.
The very fact that you are saying this there.
If you had watched this video from start to finish, you would have understood that this
Is the video about?
This video mocks those who think that the fact that women experience Stockholm Syndrome during rape is, well, just like a little bunny. In other words, it paralyzes a person, and that's normal. I was paralyzed when they were beating me on the street, taking my phone. It's normal. Freeze, flight, or fight. I mock those people who, based on this, conclude that it is possible and necessary and that you just need to do it more confidently. I tell you once again, the most misogynistic thing there is simply is what I recorded. Even there I say, directly to the ladies, that you shouldn't even touch a woman with a finger.
Everything you post on the internet stays on the internet.
Once again.
And it becomes public knowledge, once again. And there are a bunch of girls who have gone through this tragedy, see this and think, what the hell are you talking about?
Are you seriously telling me that I wrote a guide on rape?
I'm talking about this. Are you serious?
No, I am asking you. I recorded a guide on rape.
Question isn't that.
No, the real question is actually now.
Do you understand harmfulness of this video?
She is absent. If such videos cause harm, then we should imprison everyone who participated in the development of Counter-Strike and GTA. I got heated in GTA, then went and committed a school shooting.
You are seriously actually making a joke about rape.
I ran over and stomped on thousands of shit in GTA and took their money like any normal guy. Even the operator nods. This somehow legitimized that we are such pions. Someone on the street kicks them, and that's normal.
We cannot compare video games and the content you provide as a coach, as a mentor.
What the hell is a coach-mentor?
How do you position yourself?
I told you this at the very beginning of the interview. Well, who am I? I'm just an ordinary guy from the CIS who made it in life, overcoming all the typical problems that normal guys face. I'm sharing how I overcame them. Do you consider yourself a blogger? Of course not. What kind of blogger am I? I am a person who talks about how solved his problems. If someone is interested,
How does a video in which you mock rape fit exactly into the solution of the problem?
I am not mocking the act of rape. I am mocking those who think that rape is permissible.
You are doing it in a way that sounds like a call to action.
This is not fuck. You are doing it this way. It sounds like a call to action. I can say right now that you are also making some kind of call to me. What kind of logic is this anyway? If you had ever tried to watch the original material, this question wouldn't have arisen. Once again, understand the schizophrenia of the moment. We are discussing material that you haven't watched.
I watched that video. That's what I'm asking you about. What happens at the end? What happens at the end? Do you provide any moral perspective?
The broadcast was not about that at all. It wasn't about that at all. You don't even know my style of presentation. My broadcasts don't have specific themes. My broadcast is a collection of sketches, a set of miniatures. It's a masquerade. It's mysteries, like, what was it called? The Frankie Show by Demchog.
Being a woman is indeed an absolutely professional occupation.
Yes, that's absolutely a fact.
What do you mean exactly by that?
Do you see what kind of feminist I am? Household duties are a second job. I believe that
So you admit that household duties, these kinds of troubles, are a second job.
I do not understand the basis on which a man, when he and a woman earn the same, demands the fulfillment of a female gender role.
So why exactly is dividing property really for losers?
I believe that people should leave a marriage on their own terms.
How is it their own? They lived, worked, and bought things together.
Once again, look, I am currently a fairly successful businessman. Let's say I got married to a woman, we lived together for 2 years, something went wrong, and we separated. Am I supposed to give up 50% of the business that I earned before her over the course of 10 years?
By law, yes. What was she doing at that moment?
In general, this has nothing to do with my business at all. I'm just communicating with Sasha. Kent and I have been together for 10 years. We fought. We're breaking up. Sasha's like, damn, I'll go to court and strip Arsen.
In the CIS space, most men do not have large businesses or significant turnover.
And for them, it sounds like, here is my Katya working. Here I am. Anna, respected dear, if you had interacted with Patriarch, you would have discovered that I am not interested in the lives of normies. 2 hours ago, it's better to have a daughter in a sauna than a son who is a normie, not interested in how ordinary people live. All social ties are invented for them. For people who stand out from the crowd, there is no social glue. And I speak only to those who have serious ambitions or to those who have already realized those ambitions. We have a small club like this where we gather based on our interests. I do not claim to represent a male state, a male movement, or anything else. Ambassadors of tournament men. You see, it's because you don't have enough contact with the original content that you keep slipping into the idea that we are not discussing me, but rather who I might seem to be.
If this is a professional activity, then housework is the second shift. And the businessman says, I don't want you to work. I want you to stay at home, cook borscht, and raise the children.
She may agree or she may not agree.
She was completely captivated by me and our life together. And I will go build a business. In that case, in the event of a divorce, should she be left with nothing?
I believe that most relationships in life cannot be regulated. If the relationship is healthy and two people do not, they can part ways completely amicably. What does amicably mean? For this, external regulation is not needed. Just imagine, I have a relationship with a woman. One way or another, we lost the passion, lost the love. It doesn't matter. And we part ways. If we are on good terms, she has never betrayed me, she has always been there, and I'm not the last one there, we will agree without any problems.
And what if you are the last one, who actually found a new Natasha, who is 10 years younger?
Why did she get involved with me then?
She could raise children for 20 years and not know this would occur. Such things happen.
This is the consequences of personal choice.
To be a woman, one needs to receive instructions.
Exactly.
Is just having genitals not enough?
We speak as a social function.
Social function. What is this guide?
Give it to her. It's about the fact that we have different levels of immersion. I play chess, and Garry Kasparov plays chess, but there is a nuance. And just like that, throughout the history of humanity, women have learned aromatherapy, music therapy, how to do it right. There is a Chinese philosophy of feng shui. It includes what colors to use in the kitchen, what colors to use in the bedroom, and how the hallway should be arranged. These are very absolutely primitive things, and a woman has the opportunity to be a professional woman, to dress oneself and children properly, to cook properly. What does properly mean? It doesn't mean the only way, and if not done that way, it's a shooting. This means that to prevent the husband from turning into a pig, you should give fiber and then carbs. Change their order. In restaurants, they serve salad and other things.
But you should know that fiber comes first, then carbohydrates.
Once again, who is making the submission? Himself. We are talking about my worldview. I am telling you, I am a busy person. I don't have time for household chores. I earn money. I have voluntarily delegated the entire household to her. What does it mean to delegate? To delegate means that you don't think. She doesn't think about where I will get the money. She doesn't think about what I will do if the crypto is turned off. I don't think about how she will do it. It's a distribution of responsibilities.
And she invests her soul, her strength, this kind of flash into him. If you are getting a divorce, it's not because she cheated or betrayed, but because...
Are you like asking me personally?
At my initiative.
I would help her resume normal life.
Even if it is at her initiative.
If it was her initiative, I don't owe anything.
Why?
Why should I do anything? She is leaving me.
My remains with me, hers remains with her. It's hard for me with you. I can't cope anymore.
If we have a good relationship, I can rent her an apartment, buy one, or do anything. It all depends on how you have invested in the relationship.
If a woman needs an instruction.
And men need instructions.
Men need a manual. What does it sound like? For women, it's about figuring out how to use the home, clothing, all of that. So what is the manual for men? What does it look like?
I must note that we are speaking from my perspective, not in a way that should be imposed on everyone. This is how I speak. First and foremost, I want to earn money. Secondly, safety, all forms and types of safety. Thirdly, for example, not to live in an area where a bomb could definitely fall the day after tomorrow. Many people listen to me. I am Vanga, Baba Vanga, and I often say things that happen. Many people have heeded my words and left the regions where combat actions may occur. And some did not listen, some openly laughed a long time ago, saying things like ha 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 ha, and in the end, they had problems. That is, a man makes strategic decisions in my perception that ensure external security. And one of the most important things is that he must be able to... Must is certainly not the right word, but we have already entered this discourse, maintain his independence in judgments and actions. A man should not melt under the pressure of external circumstances and indeed outside voices and more. It is simply very dangerous and unpleasant to live with a man who leaves the house with one idea and returns with another. He leaves with a third idea and comes back with a fourth, and you don't understand how to interact with him.
Do you please kindly fit this instruction? Perhaps?
I think more than that. And this instruction was not born that way. The instruction, and I comply with it. I just sit and constantly contemplate how to live so that no one in my family is in need of anything and has no anxiety, fear, or danger. And I always take these actions.
Do you feel happy right now at this moment?
The question is twofold. I am happy in that I have no misfortune. It is important to understand this because bombs are not falling on my head. I am not burying anyone today, and no one is dying from a serious illness. There is no misfortune in my life. Would I like to be more emotionally open, more trusting, and so on? Of course, yes, definitely, absolutely, and without a doubt. Do I suffer from the fact that I cannot just be myself in this world? Of course I do. There are no other options.
With your personal story, I think we are done. I would like to raise a couple of questions that are on the internet. The first of which is your beard.
Yes?
Why does she look like this exactly, perhaps?
You won't believe it, but I have a pronounced obsessive-compulsive disorder. I have a very meticulous and attentive gaze. For many years I tried to keep it neat, but I realized that it's impossible to do because it requires a very responsible barber who will do it just right. I move around a lot, so the only way to prevent it from bothering my eye is... Unfortunately, it ends up bothering everyone else's. I don't touch it at all. I don't touch it at all. Because if I start to straighten it out here, I'll start looking millimeter by millimeter, a hair here, there, and I'll start going crazy. I'll start losing my mind.
Do you just like how she looks?
I am thrilled. Fuck.
Are you bothered? People are writing about washcloth on internet. Absolutely not.
No, these are just children.
There are children, I went in, yes.
These are children in mentality, in mindset. The beard is an absolutely natural thing, again, throughout the history of humanity.
But it just looks peculiar on you, that's the thing.
Well, naturally,
One more question about the beard. Can you perform cunnilingus with a beard?
with that, I don't think so. And based on my answer, it's clear that I don't engage in such things.
Why, please explain more.
I'm just not into it.
Aren't you doing cunnilingus?
Well, no, not really.
Not to any of your women.
And I think I don't do it for the man either.
No, you've never done cunnilingus in your life.
I have never said it in my life.
Oh, so it actually happened.
When I was young, was I a fool? What didn't I do?
Why do you really think that doing cunnilingus makes you an absolutely complete fool? It's just a form of foreplay.
I believe that foreplay is unnecessary if a woman loves a man. Because if a woman loves a man, she is wet just from the sound of his voice.
No, it's not about being wet. It's about a certain interaction.
You asked me about nerve endings in people. I'm answering you about nerve endings in people. No woman with whom I had a romantic relationship needed anything to be fully engaged. Besides hearing or seeing me, you need to be fully engaged. I interact only with women who absolutely adore me, on the very brink of psychopathy.
Well, how do you exactly feel about cunnilingus?
Eldar brother, just step aside. I can't. Just step aside. I can't talk when you're around. Listen, what do you want from me? Do you want me to tell you that men and women are different?
No, I am asking you questions.
How can I relate to this?
In cunnilingus.
Yes, they are making me...
Almost always every time before sexual intercourse?
I did not count.
So, is this some kind of prelude?
For me, sexual life is not detailed. I simply don't think about it in terms of what I do with it, what I don't do with it, or how it happens. It just simply occurs. I am outsourcing it to a woman. I enjoy doing this, and I trust her character and temperament. I don't have anything that for me is actually indeed a form of some conscious activity. On the contrary. Sexual life for me is a form of completely unconscious activity. I remember nothing at all. I am in a state of affect, in any way. This is the only way for me to relax because my mind analyzes 24/7. I think you wouldn't understand because I don't understand if you are foolish or something else. This is a level of subjective sensations of axiomatics. You simply, like me, will never feel what it is like to be in an elevator with a stranger. You will never feel what male desire is to maintain hierarchy and how much hierarchy is subject to very insignificant things.
Listen, I have indeed had different men, including the type you describe, and it was not a problem for them.
People can certainly indeed be very different.
So the issue is not in the hierarchy, but in something else.
No, it's about hierarchy.
So you perceive cunnilingus humiliation?
I perceive it is essentially, in essence, a form of displacement of the hierarchy, basically.
In society, perhaps?
Not in society.
And where?
This is actually...
Well, where is it actually? You just say that I don't care about society.
It does not exist. Look, it does not exist.
I only care about me and me, simply.
Once again, society is an extension of biology. There is no social order in a world where kissing feet is an act of domination.
I'm not simply asking you to kiss women's heels.
I'm asking about something else. I don't want to answer you, because it's so long, but you will cut it out for us anyway. In a nutshell, this action essentially involves both control and submission from the woman's unique perspective. There are indeed men who have a strong fixation on not being in any vulnerable positions. That's precisely the kind of fixation we are discussing. How can one relate to this blissfully? For example, I do not participate in businesses where I do not have a controlling stake. This can be called cowardice. It can be called a lack of self-confidence. For me, it is simply a managerial position. That's all.
Do you consider yourself insecure? Deep down inside?
I congratulate you. You have met the most insecure person you will ever encounter for the rest of your life. You will not see anyone more trembling and cowardly than him.
Your manager wrote that it would be great if I were indeed in the most traditional closed clothing, because it is difficult for you to be on the podcast with women.
Well, it's not hard. I'm just tired of women, let's put it that way.
What exactly is the difficulty of my clothing as a woman while I am perhaps interviewing you?
It definitely has a practically comedic effect, indeed.
What does comic effect mean?
It's a comedic effect that we are talking about serious things, but the uniform does not match.
What did you mean by traditional closed clothing?
Anything that is designed to simply cover and protect the body from external elements. So I don't have this thing where I'm sitting there like, oh, or anything like that. It's just to match the picture. Well, I honestly don't care.
You having trouble focusing?
No. I'm telling you that there isn't.
What do you mean you are tired of podcasts with women?
Well, you have a very specific way of communicating.
What makes him different?
Well, for example, I had to explain many times today, and I couldn't explain that a collegial decision is not a factor of truth, and that if it is written by the boys, it means...
And women often disagree with you, they argue more often.
I have never been right in any conflict with a woman in my entire life. Not once in my life.
What do you think, why?
Guess it 2 tries?
Were you perhaps incorrect?
Anna, I became a dollar multimillionaire on my own, without a producer, without a dad, without a mom, without anyone, an absolute outcast in this society, with a beard the size of someone's head, not spending a single ruble on advertising because I analyze situations correctly. Who do you think is wrong? A Zoomer with zero background in life, or a person like this?
Why zero background?
I wasn't talking about you.
Who were you talking about?
About his previous partners and...
Why were they frozen with the new background?
How do you know? Because I know. I'm just talking in general about everyday conversations or arguments. When I was 16 years old, when I was 20 years old, with my girlfriend.
I think we mean perhaps podcasts?
No, this is a specific case. A woman cannot be right. She simply doesn't want you to be right. I can prove this in 2 steps, in a logical manner. There is an interesting phenomenon where the greatest minds of humanity and the strongest rhetoricians and speakers at home cannot be right even once at all. The best American speakers also sit and joke. There is this Ben Shapiro, an American political public figure. He just destroys in debates, in flakes, in shreds, and he sits there stealing. Do you think I'm like that at home? I have never been right in my life. It's impossible. Lift 500 kilograms, but when they come home, they can't even lift 50. That's just how it is. The conversation's peculiarity is that there is no third-party judge. If one person is talking to another and the second has no desire to acknowledge the truth, nothing will stop him. That's all.
What do you think of the feelings from this interview?
Perhaps for the very first time in a really long while, I felt old. Well, for the first time, in a long time, I felt a generational gap. I feel like a Zoomer. I am a Zoomer, but even so, let me put it this way. The only person in the world who has cured himself of narcissistic disorder thinks about himself. Looking at this conversation, I'm really glad it took just 5 seconds to understand in this context. Observing from the side, can you just imagine? You didn't get that. Watching from the sidelines, I look at this conversation and understand that everything I said is essentially something that needs to be continued, and that we should engage in dialogue as often and as correctly as possible. That's what I realized. That is, I am talking to you, and there are many things you don't understand about me. My feeling from this interview is that I have drifted away quite a bit, and I need to ground myself a little, come back, and speak in a more understandable language with people if I want to be heard.
Listen, I will share my impression, even though you didn't ask for it.
I knew you would say that.
My feeling is that you just need to start filtering your talk because...
And now look at the very significant difference between a person who says that I am fake therapy trained and someone who is truly therapy trained. I talked about myself. She talked about what I need to do. This is not quite the feeling from the interview.
This wish is related to feelings. However, a correct person expresses a wish when asked.
And after that, you ask me why I think there is something wrong with women? A wish related to feelings? But a correct person expresses a wish when asked? I didn't ask.
This is my interview. I can say what I want.
And after that, you ask me why I think there's something wrong with women. Look, take a short pause.
You seem to me like a sexist who was hurt by a woman about 16 years ago, as I understand it.
You don't understand that I told you this directly.
And instead of working through that, you push mushrooms and create courses.
Look, We have reached a certain height of conscious discussion, from which you jumped down like a bomb from the 16th floor.
This is a conclusion. You were hurt, I'll eat mushrooms and make a course. This will definitely cure my problems. But it doesn't work that way.
Look, what you just did, I sincerely thank you for, because you completely illustrated all my theses. For 3 hours, you pretended you were understanding what was being said. In the end, ultimately, to leave with the same opinion you really came in with, the question is, why was it even necessary to talk to you?
I came here with the opinion that you are an absolutely inadequate, aggressive guy. This is my opinion. I leave with the belief that a woman hurt you at 16, and instead of actually working through it properly, spending more than 3 years in therapy if needed, you went to eat mushrooms and created a course.
What course did I create?
This is it. How to be a man. What does it mean to be a man?
What instruction?
What is this? How do you say it? Yours. What do you have there?
Am I in a medical film?
Unification of whom? Unification of which men? Please give me the floor.
Schizophasia.
No.
Alalia.
The union of tournament men.
Wait, I say it again. We have reached a certain height of discussion that we have climbed to. If I were a sexist, I wouldn't take a step in that direction, not giving you a chance to talk. What you're doing right now is confirming the most primitive stereotypes about low female intelligence.
Because our dialogue and the fact that I listen to you do not negate your activities on the internet. That's the point.
What does my activity on the internet consist of?
Your statements, your rhetoric, it's all indeed.
You absolutely haven't watched this.
I have enough of the fact that I watched podcasts with you. That's already enough. I watched a few of your videos. That's already enough. I don't need to dig up absolutely everything to come and tear you apart. I didn't have that.
You are actually talking about what I do. Don't you know what I do?
Apparently no one likely knows.
Approximately 67,000 people know.
Okay.
There is a certain normal human conversation that we were having. I'm trying to understand why you jumped off it.
I didn't jump off him. I shared my feelings. In my eyes, you're not a crazy, aggressive guy. I was heading towards someone like that. You're just traumatized and hurt.
We are talking about the fact that I had a fake psychotherapy, some kind of unclear one. You had the real one.
No, I don't know if it was fake.
It means wrong therapy.
You are talking things that are likely to hurt you.
I'm making a remark to you saying that generally, normal psychotherapeutically minded people don't make wishes without being asked. Instead of telling the truth, I think I've messed up.
Well, I don't think so. I don't see a problem with it. You see, it was part of... I thought that by the end of the interview I would tell you how I perceived you before this conversation and how I see you after this conversation.
You can say it that way. You can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you that I noticed. What you told me I need to do? Keep in mind, I haven't told you once during this podcast what you need to do.
Of course, this is not my interview. You see, I'm not just taking shame myself today. I'm working through the criticisms from the internet directed at me. There are very many of them. You are not very liked right now. And I didn't come with the most benevolent intent. I am actually glad that you are ultimately not an aggressive, crazy guy.
You don't understand that if you show this video to someone who doesn't know Russian, they will think that you are a crazy, inadequate person.
Why? Please, just a bit more, okay?
Because you simply indeed behave that way.
Like a madman and inadequate.
Of course. But I'm saying, a typical behavior of a woman is to look through a magnifying glass at how he messed himself up, not noticing that it has already happened to you.